Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to some Full Metal Demon Muramasa. We're going down the stairs towards what might be our final encounter with Ginseigo in this arc. I feel like it is. Muramasa is able to accurately pinpoint the exact location of it and distance. Point where you can say it's exactly here. I think this will be the end. We're gonna do this and maybe have a showdown with Otori, and then it'll be over. That's my prediction at any rate. Let's dig in and have some fun. I'll just reread from here. Alright. Out there right behind me is the staircase. There are more stairs than I expected, but the incline is shallow and from time to time flattens out completely. We're not very deep underground at all. At the same time, Muramasa informs me we haven't gone far from the manor above. It seems that we're descending in a long, drawn-out spiral. I haven't a clue why they built it this way. I mean, if there's no column in the center, you could probably just levitate down. After a few minutes, we come to an open space. Ooh, an underground hangar. Okay. There's no light. I assume there must be a switch somewhere, but I'll never find it in this darkness. You're wearing power armor that has thermal vision and night vision. I look around trying to see what I can. Mido?
Oh.
I know. I can feel it, a truth against my skin. Ginseigo is here. I have to be careful. I'm in the tiger's lair, and at any moment her razor claws could tear into my flesh. I still my heart and take a step. Pause. And then another. Relax, no one's gonna bite you. And Takaru turns the lights on. Light floods the room, blinding me for an instant. But as the brightness fades, I see what I've found. Oh no. What is that? A shape twisted. I don't know. I don't know what I'm looking at. Utterly mad. This thing cannot be. Hideous. Sublime. This thing must not be. Impossible. There. And still I have to know. What is it? Modern art, I guess you could say. Stupid, expensive, and pointless. Ginseigo's like mostly melted by the nuclear blast? A girl steps from behind the thing. Her manner's familiar. Have we met? How's it going, Chachimaru? Behold, one and all, the Tower of Babel! The fate of a dream to challenge the gods. There's nothing here now. Not anymore. God is nowhere and all is right with the world. What was I missing, I wonder? Courage? Friendship? Love? Yeah. When you get right down to it, most things work out if you've got enough love. I knew I shouldn't have let you roam free, big bro. Why didn't I make you mine? We could have had so much fun together. Wait, did Takuru put her mind in Chachimaru, or is Chachimaru Takuru and we're just bad at noticing? I don't know which one it is. Did she put her mind in there? I feel like that's what it is. Or no, maybe it's just Chachimaru. Maybe it's just Chachimaru. Who knows? I'm like, am I supposed to be receiving a revelation here? I don't quite know yet. Interesting though. Interesting. Knew Chachimaru was up to some really sketchy stuff. Her survival, not entirely a surprise, as she did move out before the scene ended, although whether or not she survived was left in the air until now. Wouldn't we? She throws back her head and laughs. Her laughter echoes in the cavernous space, though to my ears, the echoes seem to come from inside her heart. The girl is empty, a shell stripped to nothing. Ah, sorry. You didn't come here to listen to me bitch and moan. Go on then, she's waiting for you.
愛を語るなりお別れす
Make
るな
your
り。
confessions. Say your
Ask
farewells. Do what feels right to you.
まだ気づいてなかったかな。
Oh, you still haven't realized?
それとも全力で現実から戦略的撤退？
Are you trying to convince yourself this is all a bad trip?
お兄さん、ダメだよ。
Look, big
ちゃんと見て。
brother. Give her that.
最後なんだから。
It's your last chance.
ミド、
Nito.
これは、
Look,
この人は
an eye opens. Is she still alive or dying from radiation poisoning? I wonder what's going on here. I know that look. I know that smile. She looks so happy to see me. Softly, tenderly, she speaks my name. Kageaki? Ooh, a fragment of the shell came off and is resting on her eye. That looks unpleasant. What happened, Ginsego? Nuclear blast melt your armor? It's pretty brutal.
若様。
Mother? Hikaru?
光る
Hikaru?
光る
Theoretically, couldn't you fix her by just, like, cutting pieces off till they regenerated properly? I don't want to be, like, super brutal, but, like, I mean, that would be super brutal, but, like, if it doesn't kill them, they can be regen? Maybe?
届かなかったんだ。
It wasn't enough.
あの力。地上最大の破壊力を食い尽くすには、完全な飢餓呼吸が必要だっ
The
た。
forged bomb was too powerful. Only a
Edo.
perfect void could have
そ
swallowed
こ
that
まで
energy,
届かなかった。
but she didn't have it. Well, we know we can scale for her. Yep, you need a nuke to take her down. A single nuclear warhead will take down, Ginsego.
なんか足りなかったんだ。
Something was missing, my guess is love.
やっぱ愛かな。
Love. What else
愛
could
なん
it
だろう
be?
な。うん
She didn't have love and thus couldn't create a perfect void, a perfect black hole to consume the, nuke.
さて
Right, time to wrap this up.
じゃあおしまいにしようか。お兄さんは早いとこ逃げて。なんとなくで言うけど、まだこの世にやり残したことがあるんじゃない？
You should get flying. You should get going, brother. Something tells me you've got unfinished business.
ここにいると巻き添え食うからさ。
You'll die to stay here.
おい、村正、
Muramasa. What?
しっかりしとけよ。文字通りの鋼の心で、してが平成じゃない時に支えてやるのも、
Come on,
剣
you're
な仕
supposed to
事
help
だ
your
ろ。
master. What's that heart of steel for if not for moments like these?
外へ引っ張っていってやれ。
Get him as far from this place as you can.
あなたはどうするの？
What about you?
ほっとけよ、カビくせえ骨董品が。こっちの始末はこっちでつける。
Mind your own damn business, you moldy antique. I can take care of myself.
あなた。
Are you?
やかましい。
Oh, you're
と
slow.
っとと行け。まさくに。
Masakuni? Oh, it's a
お
turtle.
めえも主人のいなくなった世の中に興味なさそうだよな。一緒に行くか？
Bet this world looks awfully gray without that master of yours. How about it? Ah, it's, what's his face? Doshin's, Doshin Tsurugi. Alright.
その力。八大地獄の炎が最後に欲しい。
Lend me your power. I could really use some hellfire right now.
世界のすべてとはいかなかったけど、だったらせめて当てくらいは灰も塵も残さず消し去りたいから。
I couldn't burn the world to ash, but at least I want to make sure that nothing of me remains. Yeah, it's Sakuru in Cha-Cha's mind. Possibly we've never met the original Cha-Cha. Not sure.
やっちまえ。 とタヌキ
Give us a send-off, the Tanuki.
Shinogi?
Shinogi? You know we have to go?
正気でいられないのはわかる。忘れるなんて無茶は言わない。
I won't tell you to forget what you saw.
でも今は動いて。
Lose your mind
苦し
later
むのも
first.
狂うのも後。
First up, survival.
逃げるのよ。
That means move it, mister. Ah, okay. So we don't end up doing the killing? Well, that's convenient for us.
火だ。地下から。
Fire, it's coming from below! Oppenheimer wins.
カナエ様がなされたのか。
Is it Lady Kanae?
家ごと焼き尽くして
She
しま
wants
う
to
お
burn
つも
us
りだ。
all.
ダメだ。消化できない。退避しろ。
Everyone out!
中将閣下はいかがされたのだ。
General!
外縁警備の竜騎兵隊はどうした。
Where's the
なぜ救援
reinforcements?
に来ない。
They should have been back by now.
これが天罰ってやつか。もうやだ。俺はごめんだ。俺はもう逃げる。
Save yourself!
おい待て。勝手に持ち場を離れるな。
Stay at your post. Fire, it's getting closer!
親方様、いかがいたしましょう。
My lady, what do we do?
退避した方がよろしいのでは。閣下、
General! What happened?
そのお怪我は。
構うな。
Nothing.
しかし早急に手当てをなさいませぬと。
構うな。
It's nothing.
花江様。
My lady.
終わりの日だよシシク
It's over, Shishku.
お前が必死こいて支えた大鳥は今日で最後これでおしまい
Everything you fought so hard to preserve, the house of Otori ends today.
だから採点してあげる大鳥シシクお前の忠義と精神献身と苦闘は全部無駄だった
You know what you accomplished? Let me tell you. Your faith, your devotion, your suffering, your scars, they all meant nothing.
お前の名は単なる反逆者単なる圧政者単なる虐殺者として歴史に残る
You're nothing but a traitor, a tyrant, and a thief, and that's how you'll be remembered forever.
そうしてほしいなら私がここでお前を殺してやるそれともお前が私を殺す
If you ask, I'm willing to kill you here. Perhaps you'd like to kill me instead.
最後ぐらい希望を聞いてやったっていい
I'll grant your final request.
さればいずれも
I ask neither, my lady.
花江様のご慈悲未だ
I've
この
not
身
yet
には過ぎ
earned
た
your
る
mercy.
栄を心得まするまだ終わっては
Not over. Not yet.
まだ
Should maybe consider, like, leaving the room?
国生殿下は脱出なされたの
Has His Grace made it to safety?
ああ、
Yes.
先ほど確かに落王人の者が知らせてまいりました。
General, we just received the report. Okay.
親方様にご避難いただく手はずも整っているとのことです。
They've prepared
車と
an
護衛
escape
の
for
者の
Hanai
用
as
意が
well.
裏手に。
Car and escort are at the rear gate.
そうか
Excellent.
花江様お聞きの通り心苦しき次第ながらご足労をおかけいたしま
It's
す
as you've heard, if you'd be so kind as to accompany me.
シシク
Shishku?
終わりではございませぬ大鳥の
Not over. This house won't fall.
大和の未来は決して
And neither will
水泳
Yamato.
などいたしませぬこの死しくある限り
Not while I stand. Alright. The classic, not while I'm... Damn, too slow. Guy's just a step faster than her. I find myself kneeling on close-cut grass, watching as the Otori Manor vanishes into the fire. The flames lick at the darkening sky as if to swallow the stars themselves.
ミド
Nito just now?
気配が今
Their signal vanished. My heart is steel, cold and immovable. One thing only I know.
終わった
It's over. It's over. And you didn't have to kill anyone.
ほう。
General, you're
中
here.
将閣下。親方様もよくぞご無事で。
And Lady Hanai, thank
よ
goodness
も
we
や
feared
参
the
られ
worst.
ないのではと案じておりましたぞ。
これより指揮所を移す。2機は車に搭乗。花江様をお守りいたせ。
I'm relocating my command. You and you, ride with Our Lady, guard her with your lives.
他の者は寄港し、敵襲に備えよ。地上空中を問わず、不審な影あれば即座に攻撃。俺の指示を待つ必要はない。
The rest of you keep watch from the sky. Don't wait for my orders. I expect you to strike at the first indication of threat.
承知か。
That understood?
は
Sir. Alright, we got a few dragoons. 4,
任務了解。
5.
直ちに布陣いたします。
You heard the general, let's get to it.
親方様、お車へ。
My lady, if you'd please.
学のね。
Is that music
なぜかような時に。
here? Ah, Otori's caught up.
どこから？
Where's it coming from?
姉さん
Kanae?
貴様か。かなえ
It's Kanae. Alright, here we are.
俺を殺すのか。あくまでも復讐のために。
So you're here for revenge? Is that it?
貴様は俺を殺すのか。
Is that what this is all about?
俺は国家の命運を背負っている。貴様はどうだ。
The fate of a nation rests on my shoulders. What do you have?
復讐以外に何がある。
You have nothing.
何もあるまいが。正義をもって大義を滅ぼそうというのか。許されん。
You would sacrifice Yamato to satisfy your hate? Unforgivable.
貴様一人のくだらぬ復讐心に。
I'll never surrender my head
く
to
だ
your
らぬ
creature so
復
petty.
讐劇に。
それでも
And yet,
頂戴します。
I'll have it?
いかなる義をもってだ。
For what cause?
義なんて別
Cause.
に
Only.
あなたは復讐をくだらないという
You say that vengeance is petty? Isn't that what he did? You really
本
believe
当
that?
に
You've already done that yourself, buddy.
くだらぬわ。大義と引き換えにする価値などあろうはずがない。
Vengeance is worthless, only Yamato matters. Wait a minute, that's what her father said. Didn't you kill him over that? Be consistent. Well, he's being consistent. He just doesn't want to die, right?
そうなら
And prove it to me, Shishku.
そのくだらなさを私に教えなさい。
Prove it with your life.
貴様は
You beast. Ah. From above, Kanai regards the man showering her with contempt. He knows that he believes beyond all doubt that he's right.
貴様は同じだ。あの逆とどこぞのメス猫と交わって貴様を産ませたあの恥知らずと何も変わらん。
You're just like him, that traitor that corresponded to you from a harlot's womb.
あやつもそうだった。目先の生じばかりに心をとらわれ、ついに対局というものを見なかった。
See the truth for what it was.
民を死なせぬためと言って戦を避けた。だがその決断が国家の将来を闇に閉ざし、いずれ戦に10倍する苦しみを人々に与えるということがどうしてわからんのだ。
War would lead to suffering, he thought, and betrayed my lord in a futile attempt to avert it. Why couldn't he see his was the path that would lead Yamato into darkness?
一介の市民であれば優しさと称される特質が王者の心に備わるとき、それは惰弱とそしられる悪徳に他ならない。
Kindness is a virtue only among the lowborn. In a ruler, it's a sickness.
そんな道理さえ知らなかった。
It's the most corrupt of all, but your father never questioned that he alone knew best. The hypocrisy of this guy is clearly written into the story. Not even a question, so there's no complaints from me about this guy clearly doing the same thing he's whining about. And I'm pretty sure Otori knows it. Shishika's wrong, Kanai knows. Not a day went by that her father didn't question. Always at the forefront of his mind was the thought, might there not have been another way? Would his choices not lead to greater hardship for his people? Even as he fought for his vision of the future, he never stopped wondering if maybe he'd been wrong. Kanai knows, though exiled to the far side of the world, she felt his pain as though it were her own. So why couldn't he? This man, so utterly convinced of his rightness, stood at her father's side. If he'd tried to understand, to be heard, she knows her father would have listened. They could have saved House Otori together. Shishiku had the chance and the talent to make a better future possible. But he chose blades, not words, and he took her father's life.
救いようのない愚物。 笑う他にない無能。
He's a fool beyond saving, useless beyond compare.
挙句に貴様のような狂犬を世に放った。貴様の父こそ俺の人生を呪った張本人。
He released you into the world. Your father was a blight, and not only on my life.
いいな。
He's a blight on
貴
the whole
様
of
の
Yamato.
父はヤマトの命運を呪った。あの男
Is
は
this guy
生まれて
projecting?
くるべきではなかった。
Based on what we've learned about this guy, could we just say this guy's projecting super hard here? He's a blight on the whole of Yamato. He should have been born a maggot, not a man. I mean, I know Ichijo's dead in this arc, but if you'd asked Ichijo these things and said, who's this apply to, she'd probably say Rokuhara.
生まれ落ちるならせめて
At least
一
that he'd serve
匹
some
の
purpose.
虫キラであればよかったもの。
He's sniffing the copium, but is he wrong from his own perspective? I don't know. You could say rationally he has no interest in... Rationally, the Rokuhara have no interest in good governance, so they aren't good leaders, but that's only assuming that, like, doing things like improving the condition of life in Yamato and securing it are positive things, and I don't know that he actually cares about this other than his own power. So if he says something like, if he has like, since y'all like fate, like if he goes with Gilgamesh where like everything in his kingdom is for him to control and do with as he pleases, then presumably he's a great ruler because he's doing whatever the fuck he wants, right? And thus everyone's beneath him, right? So, from his perspective, maybe he's okay. We don't really know too much about this guy's opinion on what's good and bad. We just know that actually managing a kingdom is too much work. Too much work for the leadership here. And now he rejects him utterly and armored in unwavering conviction. How would her father have felt? If he could hear this man who knew nothing of his struggle condemn him with such scorn, what would be his cry? Vengeance? He demands vengeance, but... Shishka?
シシク。
ああ、仕方もなかろうよ。
The gods never fix their own
神の
mistakes.
不手際に文句をつけても始まらん。俺の手で始末をつければよいことだ。親子二代。
Clean up 2 generations of
俺が
filth.
面倒を見てくれよ。
Is this guy just stalling for his Tsurugi to show up?
貴様の父親は寝床を襲って殺してやった。何も知らず、何も気づかず。
I killed your father
あ
in his
の
bed, you
ア
know?
ホは
He died like a
芋
worm,
虫
blind
同
and
然
helpless.
ふさわしい惨めな死に方をした。
It feels like he's baiting her, right? Like, is this not the most obvious bait? To do something hasty?
貴様もそこでハムシのように死ぬがいい。
There we go. Armoring up.
シシク。
Alright, let's see how Otori deals with this. Does she try to brute force this? What do we got going on? The man had to armor up. Probably could have been shot while he was doing that, because she has like a rapid fire archer Tsurugi. But alright.
たわけ
Ooh.
車線は見きた。
They're an open book. Alright, we got a duel in the sky. Maybe?
悪しき血脈をここで断つ。父のもとへ行け、かなえ。
Mutated bloodline stands here. Give your regards to my father. And here, Kanae, okay. Her Tsurugi is said to be a Killhelm replica. That's true, that's true. The paradox of Tell and the apple. Oh yeah, here we go. Oh shit. Thus Otori Shishku dies like a worm. My man got one shot. She just capped him and it's like, ah, redirect, get wrecked. Well, that was fast. More like they're not sound waves, though. Shishke? Shishke? I was told my lady likes flowers. These are for you? I hope you like them. I hardly know one blossom from another. An instrument? True, it is an instrument. I don't know what it's firing, though. They told me last night. I'm to inherit the Shirakawa Otori household and take Shishku instead of Arata as my name. Also, we're to be wed. How do I feel, my lady? I'm aware Sir Nagakura arranged our betrothal in order to keep my master and your lord father at peace. I'm also aware of the ridiculous rumors surrounding you, my lady. But I don't care about that. I've always, from the moment we met, thought you beautiful, my lady. Kanae. If you're willing to accept me, a low-born orphan, as your husband, then I swear as Lord Tokiharu is my witness, I'll become a warrior worthy of House Otori and a man worthy of you. I swear it? Well, he clearly failed. Good night. Well, I guess they got some history. The beginning sounded so sad. Yep, alright. The week following Otori Shishiku's death is not, as one might expect, fraught with tumult. In fact, compared to what went before, one might even be tempted to call it peaceful. It's especially true in Aizu, where the expected confrontation between Rokuhara and GHQ failed to materialize. The shogunate lost its last true leader, and the allies lost their justification for war. Neither force is in a position to start another fight. For the people of Yamato, meanwhile, this latest event provided fresh fuel for rumor. Though the times have left many numb to upheaval, still voices whisper, who? Who killed Rokuhara's last hope? GHQ's the favorite suspect, at least in the beginning, but as time goes by and the story of those who escaped House Otori spreads, a different picture emerges, that the eldest daughter of murdered Lord Tokitsugu returned to claim her vengeance. The two stories gradually merge together, until the prevailing theory is that GHQ spies assisted the Otori scion in her quest. While this story is in some ways close to the truth, those who choose to believe it as in fact are wrong. The truth is that no one benefited less from Shishiku's death than the allies and their queen. If General Otori had been inclined to accept, I have little doubt that Colonel Cannon would have gladly provided him a bodyguard. They needed a villain, a living, breathing enemy, and not one who'd lost its head. Shishku, in turn, was well aware that his enemy needed him. This is why he didn't feel it necessary to keep Musha guards on station. Ultimately, neither side planned for Otori Kanae. Still, even the false narrative might have worked to GHQ's advantage. People love a tale of vengeance, and as the shadow power which supposedly made the whole thing happen, GHQ might have found support for a peaceful takeover. This, I'm certain, is in large part the reason Colonel Cannon chose to withdraw and wait. Yamato needed new rulers, and after more than a decade of strife, where people were beginning to ask why not these guys from the west. And that's when Kyoto made its move. Ah, the prince, acting up. I can only assume the court had planned for precisely this turn of events. Their moves were too swift and precise to think otherwise. First they approached Muromachi Tandai, Rokuhara's arm in Kyoto, and secured their cooperation. Next, the governor of Kyushu, Hokkaido, promptly followed. At the same time, the investiture of Ashikaga Kuniyuji, which fell by the wayside with the destruction of Budaraku, was officially postponed. It doesn't even get to be shogun. The court decided Moriyuji's heir was too young to bear the burden of these terrible times. A regent would be appointed to safeguard his position until he came of age. As for whom the regent would be, well, that remains to be seen. If I were a betting man, though, I'd place my money on a member of the imperial family, one intimately familiar with the players in Kanto, with the foresight and acumen to lead the court's response to this crisis. One member in particular, in other words. My suspicion aside, from what I already hear, the court has already begun to re-establish the true, if in recent years defunct, governing apparatus of Yamato. The 10 ministries are summoning their bureaucrats, the 5 families are convening to select a prime minister. and even the houses of the Imperial Diet are planning to unshutter their doors. This change hasn't gone unnoticed by the people of Yamato. Reminded of their ancestral loyalties, many are looking once more to Kyoto for guidance and hope. The number grows daily, and even the warriors of Rokuhara are no exception. Rokuhara's role, its true role, has always been to serve the court, and with Muramachi Tandai's example to silence lingering opposition, the leaderless Kanto Rokuhara have already begun returning to the fold. The more time goes by, the more likely it seems Yamato will find its own way to peace. It's not, of course, what GHQ wants, and I have little doubt that Colonel Cannon has plans in place to stop it, but without another convenient villain waiting in the wings, he'll soon have to make a choice to become himself the villain or instead seek an accord. Will war once again rage across Yamato, or will it finally have its freedom? The answer to that question is not for me to know. And that's the ending, I take it. Seems like that's the ending. We might get an epilogue. The mountain breeze is soft and gentle, caressing my skin like a maiden's touch. I breathe deep, filling my lungs, and exhale a great burst of air. It's over, truly. Kinsego is gone, Rokuhara defeated, and though there are doubtless many obstacles to overcome before a brighter future can emerge, my part in Yamato's story is over. Yamato needs the good and the wise, not men like me. I'm a murderer, a criminal, and a criminal's duty is to be punished. That's the only way for such a man to be of use to society. Why, I had hoped for a trial once this ended, for a fair, impartial judge who would send me to the noose. Suffer and die, filthy and wretched, an object of hatred and scorn. That's just what I deserved, justice. But the only men who could see it done denied my victims that. They simply couldn't understand why it had to be. And now the commissioner is gone, and his highness, I'm sure, has no time for my troubles. Even if they possessed the will, they couldn't see it done. And yet I need not despair, I still have Otori Kanae. With her I have no fear my deeds will go unpunished. She's weighed my crimes, pronounced me guilty, and sworn to see justice done. Perhaps she does not serve society's laws as I do, but she does serve a law, a deeper law, the oldest law of man. Whatsoever you take from another shall be in turn taken from you. The law of vengeance shall come for me, her sword in hand, to avenge the boy whose dreams I destroyed. Nita Yuhi, his killer will die, slain by the righteous blade as evil is meant to be. There's no justice more perfect, more fair, no other way to honor my victims. They were innocent, they lived good lives, and were repaid for it with evil. If that evil's not repaid in turn, then their good was worth nothing at all. Evil must be repaid. The villain must suffer the same as his victims. It won't bring back what was lost, but it will at least even the score, and evil will not have won. More than anything, this world needs justice, a force that acts in opposition to the wrong. Justice is the font of order, the soil which hope and dreams may grow from. And he still isn't aware that she killed his father. I wonder what his opinion on that is. Does it change anything? You might say it changes one of the people he killed, but he's killed like a bunch of people. Maybe that's his rationale. Maybe he just says he needs to kill her now or some bullshit. Let's see. And thus I know there is justice in that she's coming for me. Otori Kanae. This joy, this terror that burns in my heart is proof the world is right.
Kageaki-sama, yoroshiku.
Darling, may I come in?
あなたに対して閉ざす扉などありません。
My door is always open to you, Captain.
それに、折も良かった。
In fact, I was about to call on you
こちら
myself.
から伺おうと思案していたところでした。
She steps inside and closes the door, foregoing the obvious question. There's only one reason I'd call on her now, only one thing between us unfinished. Perhaps she means to finish it here. So be it, I'm ready. I have no reason to refuse her. Did Kageaki kill anyone? No. He did not end up killing anyone. She turns towards me but stops halfway, her gaze fixed on the wide open window. Aren't you cold?
ありませんの？
さほどには。
Not especially, I find it
新
bracing.
鮮な空気の心地よさの方が勝ります。
そうですね。
Air's nice, isn't it?
自然は本当に素晴らしいところですから、ここは。他には何もありませんけれど。
Depends on how at fault he is for the 4 people who tried to kill him, and his action, his strategy of getting them killed by waiting till they ran out of gas and falling from the sky. Doesn't seem to count as killing. What happened to the general? Otori went and shot him. Otori cleans up. So nice, so clean. Pity there's
な
little
い
ones.
方が良いのです。何があっても景
I
観
prefer
を
it that
損
way
なうで
myself.
しょう。
Such natural beauty is precious. While speaking, I get up and close the window. Women are often susceptible to cold, and I'd not want to make the captain uncomfortable.
長倉王は良い場所に別荘を建てられた。1週間屋根をお借りしたものとして、ご趣味のほどに称賛の言葉は惜しめません。
Sir Nagakura couldn't have chosen a better location for this manor. After a week beneath this roof, I feel safe in declaring that the gentleman has exceptional taste.
思考が似通ってらっしゃるのかしら。長倉のおじい様もこの山荘はお気に入りで。
No wonder you two got along. This manor is one of his favorites.
毎年春と秋には1週間ほどここで過ごされます。で
Spends
も
a week or so here
こ
every
れから
spring and
当
autumn.
分の間はその習慣もお預けでしょうね。
So I'm afraid he'll have to put that custom on hold for a time.
ご多忙なのですか。
I imagine he's busy. At present, the situation at Aizu can best be likened to the chaos of a laundry bin. With the forces of Otori Shishku assembled here, and leaderless and lost, I only hope Nagakura isn't in any danger.
表向きはこれまでと何も変わらず悠々自適に暮らしてらっしゃいます。
Oh, officially?
け
He's
れ
still
どバー
enjoying
ヤ
his
の言うに
retirement.
はどうも裏でせわしなく動いているらしいとのことで。
But of course, Sayo tells me he's hard at work behind the scenes.
は、
I see.
多分大鳥家に花江の周辺に介入しているのでしょう。あのおじい様、昔から私より妹の方にご執心でしたから。
I suspect he'll do what he can to support my sister Hanae. He's always more fond of her than he was of me.
大鳥家を立て直そうと奔走している花江の支えになってくれているんだと思います。
His support will be
きっと
invaluable
あ
as
の
she
子
works
に
to
は気
build
づか
House
れない
Otori,
ようにしながら。
even if she never realizes she had it.
もう結構なお年なんですもの。好き好んで苦労を買い込まなくたっていいでしょうにね。
Really, though, a man his age shouldn't take on such burdens. She sighs, shaking her head, but I hear the truth behind her chatting tone. And smiling, I
好
reply,
きでする苦労ならお辛くはありますまい。無理をなさらないか。
a burden
それ
borne
だけの懸
gladly
念で
is
す。
no burden at all, though I do worry he might work himself too hard.
体の限界は得てして唐突に訪れるものですから。
Our health is often more fragile than we think. Don't you, like, passively heal from every injury?
ええ、
Quite right.
そのあたりに気を配れる人間が
He
おじ
needs
い様
someone
の
to
身
look.
辺にいるといいのですけど。
He needs someone to look after him.
誰か
Someone? Why not you?
とは言わず、
Me?
大井殿とて妹君の力となりたい気持ちにお変わりは
Must
ない
wish to
は
help
ず。
your sister too. Why
長
not work
倉王
together?
のもとで、さすればあのご老人も肩にかかる重みを減らせましょう。
That's the surest way to lessen his burden.
差し出口ながら、そうすることが最善であろうと
No, it's not
自
my
分
place
に
to
は
say,
思われます。
but I believe that's where you belong.
私は単なるパウダーマニア。今あの子やおじい様のそばへ行っても無駄飯食いの場所塞ぎになるだけでしてよ。
A sugar-happy gunpowder junkie like me, I'd only get in the way.
そのようなことは決してあ
That's
り
not
ません。
true, I say with conviction.
買いかぶりはなさらないで、影明様。
Flattery will get you nowhere, dear.
いえ、大尉、
Not flattery, Captain.
自分は知っています。
Merely observation.
覚えています。
I haven't forgotten. I recall her deeds, all that I've seen of her since we met in the village. I remember how she bucked the will of her superiors and fought to save the village from Nagasaka's madness. I remember how she joined my quest to stop Ginsego and how no warning of mine could turn her aside. Of course, I remember her actions in the wake of the Shogun's death, the desperate attempt to stop the bomb, the flight to Aizu, where she took a bullet meant for me, and the last struggle against Otori Shishku, whose ambitions would have brought new war to Yamato. In every instance, the wise course would have been to stand aside, but she threw herself into mortal danger with no hope of personal gain. And why did she do it? Well, for her people.
大尉殿、あなたは昇進の貴族であられます。
You're a true
民草
noble,
を
Captain.
導くという傲慢なる統治に正当な資格を持って臨むことのできるお方です。
To take it upon oneself to rule is an inherently arrogant path, but you know the duty that comes with power and are willing to see it through.
あなたの存在が大鳥家、ひいては会津の人々の暮らしに益しない道理がありません。疑うべくもないことです。
I have no doubt you'll be an invaluable asset not just to House Otori, but to the whole of Yamato.
大尉殿、
Captain, it's time to move
あ
on.
なたはこんなところで足踏みしているべきではない。
If there's anywhere she doesn't belong, it's here.
港影焼の始末をなさってください。そして一刻も早く、あなたの力が必要とされている場所へお戻りを。
And then go to where you're needed. She answers with silence, and slowly her gaze travels from me to the window, the vista beyond. I study her profile, though never in question. Her beauty strikes me now more than ever before. Her fine sculpted features, cold and white, betray no hint of emotion, but as frost hides beneath the soil, I know that beneath them a world of warmth can be found, and after a time she speaks, her lips hardly move.
そんな生き方も考えはしました。
I did once dream of such a life,
けれど、
but now...
けれど、
As her last whisper dies, she turns to look at me once more. At once my body freezes, every muscle locked in place, and there, not an arm's length away, the captain's lidded eyes shine like knives behind a veil. She reaches out, her fingers long and white, bone white, as if all the blood has left them. They touch my neck, cold as ice, and I know my doom is here. Her other hand rises, and I watch petrified, waiting for the end to come. Here, Kageaki is going to be moderately surprised. The air is still, and this is not precisely the end I expected. The captain laid me out on the bed. Forcibly? Well, it's hard to say. I suppose some subtle technique might have done it. I felt no noticeable impact. I could have almost believed I assumed the position myself. Kageaki's like, I'm gonna get killed, and it's like, I don't know about that, Kageaki. Situation doesn't seem quite like that.
大尉、
Captain. She doesn't reply, though she can't have mistaken the question in my tone. Instead, with the tiniest quiver, her fingers begin to undo the buttons of my shirt, and I decide to try again.
何を
Captain, what?
明日、
Tomorrow. This time she stops me with a word, a single word, tomorrow. The answer leaves a great deal unsaid, but the words that don't follow I hear as if spoken. There's only one thing they could be, tomorrow.
ですから、それまで
Till then, Kageaki dear,
あなたは影焼様。
you belong to me? I try to speak, to voice my assent? Assent, not dissent. But my throat dry as a desert prevents me. It hardly matters, I'm hers, she doesn't need or want my permission. Her hands, which hold my life in their grasp, continue their nuptial work, and I can tell from her ragged breathing she's nervous, as if she's never been with a man before. The question, why, crumbles like sand. I know that to ask would be meaningless. I'm hers, and that answer is enough. Within moments, my chest lies bare, her eyes inspect me with microscopic intensity, tracing the many lines carved in my flesh. A record of my battles is etched there. Though a musha can heal from most any wound, the deepest still leave traces behind, and I have many. Too many to count.
そう、
Captain, I'd
じっと
appreciate
見
it
られ
if
る
you
のは、
周知を
wouldn't stare.
は
Yes.
なぜ
Why?
醜いと思っておいでですの？
Are you ashamed of these scars? She traces one long and jagged with the tip of her little finger.
この
What's to be ashamed of?
傷が。
ええ、
Captain.
傷跡は言うなれば生きた証。恥じるものでも醜いものでもなくてよ、影焼様。
A man's scars tell the story of the life he lived. There's nothing ugly or shameful about them.
尋常に生きた方で
It's
あ
true,
れば、
Captain. If the
大
life
尉、
he lived was a good one,
おっしゃられる通りです。傷跡が生きた証
the
なら、
life these scars describe.
港影焼の傷が示すものは、
My fingers go to the scar she chose. The memory comes easily, the battle of the deaths, most vividly the one that came after.
まさに崇高、
Deserves only your scorn.
恥じるほ
How
か、
could I not be ashamed of
術
them?
がありません。
Silence. The captain neither agrees nor protests, but neither does she grant me a reprieve from her gaze. I look aside, but her eyes, I still feel them on my skin, stroking it, caressing it like long, slender reeds. There's no escape. Squirm though I might, her grip holds me fast, and my only choice is to lie there helpless as shame broils the core of my brain. Chew? Suddenly a new sensation sears my flesh, this one infinitely more real than the last. A moment of utter confusion follows, though I can see what's happening, I can't accept it. The captain is... Kanae is kissing me, kissing my hideous scars.
大尉、
Captain. My voice dies. What can I say? What words? What plea? What will evade me against the raw power of her act? My tormentor pays no heed to my distress, and she's utterly devoted to her work. The first touch draws a groan from my throat. The shock is electric, too much to endure. Her lips move onwards from one scar to the next, leaving no inch of my skin untouched. With a hunter's focus, she studies me. Kageaki, Kageaki, This is how far we had to go before Kageaki was like, oh, she's not killing me now. Oh. It's a different kind of torture. I see, I see. All at once I understand why I can't stop her and why my pleas have gone ignored. To her in this moment, I'm not my words or will. I'm my scars, my story, my battles. The woman's tasting my crimes, and it's no wonder I can't deny her, for what she's claiming is merely her due. She is, after all, my judge. These scars. The taste of tears.
涙の味がします。
Everyone.
嘆きの味が。
The taste of grief and sorrow.
それ
Yes.
は至極
Did they not? The grief of my victims whose futures I stole, the tears shed by their friends and loved ones. These scars were made by more than just blades.
分かってない。
Why, you foolish man.
影明様は間違ってる。
Don't you see who you're forgetting?
どうしてお分かりにならないの？
Why are you so blind? Perhaps she's right. Perhaps I am blind, for I can't see what it is she sees. What am I missing? What am I forgetting? Grief? Tears? For whom? She's staring deep into my eyes, waiting for something, a flicker, a spark. She hopes I will see. But I glimpse there also resignation, and she knows her hope is in vain. And indeed, I'm forced to meet her expectations, though I wish it were otherwise. Her words cannot reach. The captain, sensing this, shows no surprise and merely lowers her head, concealing her face. But if this gesture signifies acceptance, it must also signify her coming to a decision. Otherwise, how do I explain what comes next? True, one might call it the obvious way for this matter to progress, but to my senses, the shock is real. Something inside of me comes awake, torn from this long slumber by the scent of fresh meat. I know that if it's freed, I'll cease to be myself. I gather my will to keep it suppressed, the effort like biting through my own still-beating heart. I have no way of knowing what the captain sees, whether she understands the struggle taking place, but if she does, it's not enough to deter her. White cheeks flushed from her assault. Now she takes hold of me, her touch delicate, as if handling glass or shaking someone's hand for the very first time. I can't speak. The strength it would take, I require to hold back their hungry, rising tide. Okay. She's begun to move her hand slowly, carefully, perhaps too carefully to be called a caress, but I'm no longer capable of making such objective assessments. Inside this skin, at least, her very act is fuel poured on a fire. Her touch, her breath, even her gaze they're corrosive, eating the chains that bind me. Imagine this woman, this Otori Kanae, is doing these things to me. It's enough to strain my control to the limit. Falter and reason will depart me altogether.
影明様、口ですればよろしいのですよね。
Should I lick it? No, but the word can't breach my throat. Why? Is the struggle for control which prevents me? Or have I already lost the struggle and succumbed? I don't know. A fog is blinding, severing me from reality and reason. We didn't get an early fade to black this time. That's interesting. With their customary resolve, the captain proceeds as though I'd given my assent. A jolt of pleasure rocked my body. In shock, the captain pulls her head back. A moment passes. And like a switch being flipped, the atmosphere changes, and suddenly I know how it feels to be prey. There's a light in the captain's eyes that wasn't there a moment ago, one that evinces a fresh new outlook on the situation. It seems to say, this could be fun! I am in mortal danger. But there's nowhere to run. Even if there were, this woman will never let me escape.
とい
Captain?
影明様のこんなところ知っている人は他にいないのでしょう？
There's probably no one else who's seen this side of you.
それは
No?
まあ
If there were, I'd be afraid to venture outside.
そんな内緒の部分まで見せていただけてよかった。
I'm glad you shared a secret with me. Before the
最
end.
後に
Before the end. Alright, dawn. Let's see, what's our decision at dawn? The day breaks.
殿方より先に目覚めてこっそり抜け出しておくのが女のたしなみというものですのに。
I was hoping to be gone when you awoke, as all good women are.
申し訳ありません。比較的
My
朝に
apologies.
も強い方で
I'm an early riser.
寝顔見られた。
You were watching me sleep, the captain pouts. Struggling not to laugh, I see her from my room, and then I ready myself for the day. We see each other again at breakfast, which Miss Nagakura prepares. The meal is delicious and the conversation light. Afterwards, the captain excuses herself, citing a small matter to which she must attend.
港様、午前中はいかがなさいます？
How will you spend your morning, sir?
少し森を散策しようかと。
I thought I might go for a walk.
それはよろしゅうございますな。
本当ね。お天気もいいし。影明様、後で私もご一緒して構いません？
It's awfully nice out today. Do you mind if I join you later?
もちろんです。
Not at all.
では、
And thus the meeting is
お先。
set. We're going out for a walk. Our final meeting. Were someone to ask me whether a forest in winter is beautiful, I'd find myself hard-pressed to answer. In spring there's growth, promising and new. In summer there's life, vibrant and sheltered from the sun. In summer there's color and a quiet, gentle warmth. They're all beautiful in their own way, but in winter there's nothing. No warmth, no color, no life, no growth. A forest in winter is incomplete, missing the parts that make it whole, and historically few poets have found much in this to admire. But few is not none. Some speak of this season as one which lays the world bare, rendering everything, not imperfect, but naked, stripped of its petty affections. Or was that affectations? Yeah, affectations, my bad. Winter, then, is the season of truth, this emptiness, this silence where its beauty lies. I'm not one who normally credits such sentiments, but now, however, I understand. As places to die go, it's more than I deserve. Perhaps this helps to explain my present state of mind, and I find myself as calm as the forest around me. There's fear, of course. I'm not so enlightened as to meet my death with a nod. Imagine Otori Kanae's malice, her fingers cold around my throat, fills my heart with terror. But inside my heart is where the terror stays, frozen perhaps by the winter air. My limbs don't shake, my thoughts remain clear, and so it is with unearned composure that I await my executioner. Where's Muramasa at? Is Muramasa just following him? Although she doesn't show herself, I know Muramasa's been with me since I departed the villa. She's silent not because she has nothing to say, but because she doesn't know if she should say it. She doesn't need to, after all this time together. I know what her words would be. And I'm grateful for her restraint, if sorry that she feels the need. Gratitude and guilt may be the first time I've felt such emotions towards Muramasa. Come to think of it, I have my own message to deliver, and there's no reason her silence should keep me from saying what needs to be said.
村正、
Muramasa.
何？
Yes. I turn to face her. She remains hidden, but our bond tells me where she is.
世話になった。
I couldn't have done it without you. Bad luck for Kinsego to be caught in a nuclear blast. The words are quiet as I resume my walk, and from the position of the sun I know that early morning is past. I've been out here for over an hour. Soon, something tells me, though no time was appointed. The moment feels right.
ミド、
You know?
日が陰ってきたな。
Clouds are getting thicker. When we set out, the sky was blue and clear, and now a blanket of gray spreads from the horizon.
ミ
Looks
ド
like rain. Mito! I finally noticed the alarm in Muramasa's voice. The tone is familiar.
ボギーか。
Contact?
方角、水型の神、
One.
距離950、
5 o'clock
速度
high.
570
Range 570.
この反応は何番もの？
I don't think it's the Yamatoan.
進駐
The HQ?
軍だと。
There's only one reason they'd be here, to tie up their loose ends. That's Tsurugi. Yeah, there she goes. Alright. I was like, she's not just gonna shoot him, right? It's gotta be... We haven't had the reveal yet, right? Kageaki doesn't die without this reveal. So you're just waiting for it, right? You're just waiting and waiting and waiting. You're like, when does she tell him? Alright, final confrontation. Good time, good time. That's...
俺は。貴様は。
you.
貴様は。
The one from the temple?
あの時の。
The Osugi incident. In the 24th year of Koryu, Osugi Sakai was assassinated together with his family by officers of the Imperial Army. It was one of a string of politically motivated killings that took place between the rise of the far right and Rokuhara's seizure of power. Born into an old military family, Osugi Sakai spent his childhood preparing to follow in the footsteps of his forebears, But after a series of poor choices saw him expelled from the army preparation school, he spent the rest of his life, in a sense, rejecting all he'd been taught. At the time, Edo was the center of political discourse in Yamato, and there Osugi reinvented himself as a pacifist, speaking against the evils of empire. While his new ideals may have been born out of hate for the military which had spurned him, Osugi took to them with zeal nonetheless. He always possessed the gift of rhetoric. Men gathered around him, both detractors and supporters, drawn not only by his speeches and writings, but also to the peculiar dichotomy of his character. Here's a man who could translate Darwin, yet also found himself more than once ducking a jealous mistress's knife. Ultimately, Osugi's anti-imperialist sympathies evolved into full-blown anarchism. His supporters grew in number and in fervor, and of course, as did his enemies on the right. For a while, a pacifist might be dismissed as a nuisance. An anarchist was a clear and present threat to national integrity. Those who dreamt of an Asia united beneath Yamatoan rule, and to those he is the worst kind of traitor. On September 1st, Koryu 24, the Great Kanto earthquake lays waste to Edo. Hundreds of thousands die in the destruction and its aftermath. In the chaos which follows, rumors abound. Foreign laborers are banding together with socialists to loot, rape, and kill. Though these stories have little merit, a hurt, panicked people are ill-equipped to discern truth from fiction. Lynch mobs stalk the streets of Edo, claiming lives by the dozen. However, the most famous murders of this period are committed not by hysterical townsfolk, but by soldiers acting with cold, clear purpose. And where some of these men, too, let paranoia drive them, and still others see the rumors as merely an excuse to settle old grievances. A few days after the earthquake, 10 political activists are arrested, shot, and decapitated in Katsushika District, Edo. This massacre, later called the Kamiedo incident, is the first of many. September 16th, Koryu's 24. Osugi Sakai, his wife, and their 2 sons, ages 6 and 7, disappear on their way back to Edo from Yokohama, where they were visiting Sakai's sister, who had been injured in the quake. A week later, the public learns what happened. A group of radicals led by the Imperial Army abducted the family, executed them, and took their own lives. To this day, no one disputes the official record. Yeah, of course, they just killed someone and then committed suicide for no reason. Then it contains several falsehoods and numerous omissions of the truth that only those in certain circles know. Bro, that'd be like the most sketchy thing. It's like, ah, yes, some random soldiers went crazy, they went and killed, like, our political enemies, and then they just killed themselves. It's so weird, right? Like, they just disappeared. I guess they killed themselves. Like, yeah, sure, okay. That's like the most transparent lie. Holy shit. Nagakura Sayo pauses her sweeping. A dark spot on the floor caught her eye. It's not possible. After the incident, they tore out the floorboards and had them replaced. They have missed one? It's been 20 years, plenty of time for new stains to build. And yet the old woman stares at the spot that looks so much like dried blood she can't help but remember.
おばあ様、不思議なの。とても不思議なのよ。
Sayo, do you see? It's so very odd.
この人たち、銃の弾を避けなかったの。
None of them could dodge my bullets. Why?
あんなの、ちゃんと見れば簡単に避けられるのにね。
All you have to do is look. It's so easy.
そうでしょ？
Isn't it?
ね、おばあ様。どうしてこの人たちは私みたいに時間を止めてしまわなかったのかしら。
Why can't everyone stop time like I can? Like I do. Her skin crawls, her hands shake, and the broom clatters to the floor. It's like this every time she recalls the events of that long ago day. The terror, always as fresh as the very first time she felt it. She turns to the window. The sky is gray, and out there a battle's beginning. She knows her mistress will prevail. Defeat for her is impossible, unless Otori Kanae chooses it herself. I guess we'll find out. One last duel?
貴様
The Musha alights on the crown of a pine, a raptor glittering darkly. From there he gazes down at me, contempt hanging thick in the air. In his eyes I'm nothing but prey to be hunted at his leisure. My heart pounds, and I clutch at my chest. It's him, the Musha who killed my father. Bloodlust surges through my veins, demanding I surrender control. Vengeance, it cries, and I step forward to answer. An image cuts through the crimson haze. Could this knight be like them? If this hatred for me was born of my crimes, then I don't have the right to deny him. But is it so? The warrior's malice feels different from theirs. Kuroso no Konatsu and her companions were driven to vengeance by love, love that my actions twisted to madness. The madness I sense in this Musha is different, not twisted but pure. He hates me, because to hate is his nature. Or do I read him wrongly? Am I looking for an excuse? There's only one sure way to be sure.
クルセイダー。どうやら問答無用の様子だが、そこを曲げて、一件問わせていただきたい。
A moment. I realize you're not here to talk. Still, I would answer that you answer one question. Or ask that you answer one question.
あなたは港影焼に復讐を誓うものか。俺に近親を殺され、
Are you
その
here under
怨恨
colors
に
of
かけて
freedom?
俺の命を狙うものか。
To avenge a loved one murdered by my hand?
ならばこちらには刃を受ける用意がある。同様のゆえんにより俺を処断せんとする方がすでに1名控えておられるため、そちらと相談していただくことにはなるが。
If so, I'm prepared to offer you my life, provided you reach an agreement with the other interested party whose claim, I'm afraid, predates yours.
いかに。
I would have your answer. The knight doesn't speak nor reveal his expression, and yet he answers, with a tilt of the head more eloquent than any sneer. What kind of fool are
貴
you?
様。
So it's not
やはり。
vengeance. Now the knight aims his crossbow not at me, but east towards the villa. I take his meaning all too well. Give me what I want, or I'll deal with her first.
やはり大鳥隊員を狙ってきた追っ手
Here
か。
for the Captain Otori.
させん。
I won't let you have her. My calm vanished, consumed by flame. Death will have to wait.
村正、あと一度だけ。
Muramasa, fight with me one last time.
あと一つだけ。
I
や
still
ら
have
ねば
work
な
to
らぬ
do.
ことができた。
ミド、
Nito,
頼む。
please. I can't afford to fall here. Otori Kanae, she alone has the right to take my life, and to protect hers and ensure my just end, I'll do what must be done. And this knight who killed my father will die. He's looking for an excuse, obviously.
鬼に
Were
会う
there
て
demons
は
I
鬼
slay
を
them?
切る。
Were there saints I slay them?
仏に会うては仏を切る。剣の断り、こ
Finds
こ
the
に
way
あ
of
る
the。sword.
頭を押さえられた。
He's above us.
高度優勢は先方か。あの鋼鉄が備える独特の光彩。
He has the wind
やはり
advantage.
伊達ではなかったら
I
しい。
expected as much from the look of his armor.
わかるの？
Care to explain?
あれはオリハルコンだ。
Or Chalcom. In the west, there are three metals said to represent the pinnacle of the Cruxsmith's craft. Blessed Mithril, the demon's bane. Jeweled adamantite, which no blade can pierce. And last, shining orichalcum.
剣が羽衣に思えるほどの軽量なのだとか。そのため、立ち上がりが異常に鋭い。
They say it's like wearing a robe of pure light. No metal I know of carries a lower lower ratio of weight to armor.
所詮の上手は約束されたようなものってわけね。
Guarantees they'll start every battle at the high ground. Impressive.
けど、重量が軽いことには短所もある。
Cutting weight has its drawbacks too, Mito. Don't forget.
ああ、
Indeed. In the air, Tsurugi's striking force depends on velocity and mass. Though my opponent does have the higher altitude advantage, his lighter frame means he's still gonna have trouble getting through with that longsword of his. This fight's by no means lost. Of course, that only applies as long as my enemy uses their sword. His crossbow, on the other hand, doesn't care how little he weighs. Historically, no weapon on Earth's been as feared as the Musha's bow. Where the ability to kill at range is concerned, only the most modern weapons can even begin to compare. The crossbow in particular, though it never saw much use in Yamato, possesses unparalleled penetrative force. The tensile strength present in the kind of string that only a Musha can wind means its bolt, properly rifled, can reach even the ultra-thick armor plate covering Tsurugi's chest. Trade-off is that crossbows take much longer to reload, so we'll have to be careful when he uses it. Still, considering the danger that weapon presents, it would have been safer for me to stay on the ground, where the forest might have provided some cover. Indeed, I would have if I could have been certain my enemy would continue the engagement even after I declined to follow him into the sky. There was, however, a chance he'd fly for the manor instead, in which case I'd be hard-pressed to catch him, starting as I would have from the ground. Given I can't afford to let him near the manor, I'm forced to fight on a field which favors my enemy. Perhaps this is why he came after me first, because he knew my concern for the captain would hobble me. But it is the captain. My enemy dives, sword poised to strike, and as expected, he intends to hold his bow in reserve. He knows if it misses, he won't get another chance. I mean, he probably could have shot from like half a mile away and killed you, but, you know. He'll attempt to cripple us first, then deal the finishing blow. So be it. We'll turn this plan to our advantage.
剣の勝負でまさに追い詰めてあの石弓を撃たせる。
We'll start by taking control of the melee, back him into a corner, force him to take his shot,
それを防いで仕留める。了解。
get past it and finish him before he reloads. Got it.
飛び道具に頼る武者なんて所詮邪道よ。そこのところを教えてあげないとね。
We'll show this barbarian how a real Musha fights. Alright. As the enemy approaches, I realize his bow may serve another purpose. The shape, the way he's holding it, could it also be a shield? My knowledge of Western martial techniques is sadly lacking. Though I fought George Gargett on Enoshima, his weapon, a two-handed greatsword, was similar enough to my own I could predict how he'd attack. The pairing of sword and shield is entirely alien to my experience. In such situations, the safest course is to stick to the fundamentals of combat. I know he'll use his shield to defend and his sword to attack. I just need to make sure my own attack addresses both. I assume Jodan and drop my pitch, preparing for a strike at my enemy's belly. Given the size of that shield, he positioned his shield to defend, and immediately I pull up and shift my sword low, angling for his back. The knight reacts with startling speed. A screech echoes across the sky as my sword meets the middle of his shield. Though my feint was unsuccessful, it appears to have taken all my enemy had to defend with. His sword remains steady with no sign of a counter.
胸部鋼鉄に損傷。危ない。一発で破られかけた。
Ventral armor damage, that was close, he almost got through.
月か。
But that's his game. A thrust, I should have known. Unlike a slash, which distributes force along the cutting edge of the sword, a thrust concentrates all its power on a single point. This means even a lightly massed Musha can breach his enemy's armor with a single well-placed strike. But landing a thrust in the air, well-placed or otherwise, is a difficult task for even the most experienced swordsman. Why most Yamatoan schools treat it as unreliable, a technique of last resort. The ideal situation will be one where you can hold your thrust until the opponent's so close that missing is impossible. In practice, this usually means foregoing defense, which makes it a good way to get yourself killed, whether you land the thrust or not. The Western Knight's shield solves the problem nicely. The shield defends, leaving his sword free to thrust at optimal moments. The frame of the crossbow built into the shield is handy too. And generally, shield is really good in real life, but who knows? Kageaki can get through most things.
感心するのはいいけど、
It's nice you find
や
it
られっぱな
stimulating
しは
and all.
ごめんよ。
Tell me you're still in it to win?
無論だ。そんなつもりは毛頭ない。
Of course, defeat is not an option. Not with Captain Otori's life at stake. Have to protect her, for she alone will give me the death I deserve. But as my engine carves a trail of smoke across the winter sky, I find myself asking,
そうか。
is that why I'm fighting? Save a life? Is my motivation truly so pure? If it is that right? I've fought to protect others before, but have I ever once succeeded? My mother died, the Haya children died. How can I say my sword has the power to shield another from harm? If it did, then surely I could have saved my father that day. But no, mine is not a sword that saves lives, regardless of what I might wish it to be. The truth is clear. So be it then. Know yourself, the great strategist said. If I truly wish to defeat this foe, I must embrace my soul strength and fight to kill. But if he knows himself and not his enemy, he's supposed to, what? Basically get a 50-50, right? Where he'll trade wins and losses. Amusing, because he hasn't actually lost a fight yet. So, in theory, he should lose. But maybe he's known his enemy on all those previous occasions, and now it's merely a coin flip. A risk, to be sure. A little bit of dramatic tension. Fortunately, I don't want for motivation. The awful scene is seared into my eyes, the same knight's arrow in my father's heart. I swore an oath then to avenge him, and the time has come to make good.
ミド
You know? The second pass, my enemy holds his stance. He means to once again block with a shield, then come for a thrust with his sword. I'm not surprised. It's a solid tactic, balanced with no clear vulnerabilities. I'll have to make one if I hope to win, no matter the risk that requires. I'll rise in Jodan, then switch to Gaidan just before entering range. It places me on course to strike as I pass to my enemy's back. Instantly the air crackles with tension. My enemy's on high alert, and no wonder. I've not altered my approach from our first exchange, despite the failure there. A less seasoned combatant might take this to mean I'm a fool. This one, however, doesn't underestimate me. Keeps his shield low but ready to shift in response to the course my sword takes. His caution will not avail. Now, a ripple of confusion disturbs my enemy's readiness. At this moment, he's wondering why no impact touched his shield. The answer is simple. I haven't attacked. Instead, I shifted my sword to a left-handed grip, leaving my right hand empty. Why? Well, despite the question hanging in the air, my opponent doesn't hesitate. He thrusts with impeccable timing and aim directly at the point that his previous thrust damaged. My blood chills. If this strike connects, it'll surely end my life. This time, however, I have a shield of my own to defend me. With my left hand, I parry his thrust. And with my right, I go for the kill. My plan is a simple one. Hook my arm around his neck and use the force of our collision to shatter his spine. Executed successfully, this technique guarantees your enemy a one-way trip to a never-ending dream. I mean, I guess if you can ignore the sword part, if you can ignore your opponent's weapon easily, yeah, that works pretty well. Parry your opponent. So you're traveling at approximately 600 net speed. Net speed is like several hundred kilometers an hour, and you have the reflexes. Wasn't he struggling to even hit Ginsego when Ginsego fell from the sky? Or like the Immelman turn was like fucking magic and he couldn't react to it? How on earth would you parry and then instantly go for a like throat grab after parrying a sword? That's like 2 hand motions. If just doing one is hard. Interesting. Okay. Okay, interesting. I guess he's like ridiculously fast here. Okay. Well, I mean, the fact that he's even attempting it means he's like stupid fast, but alright. Yoshino Onryu Yume Makara. Okay. Also, if you could reliably parry swords with one hand, why would you ever fight with 2 hands? Doesn't that make it like insanely easy to deal with swords by just parrying them? I guess it's risky, but I guess it might be risky. But like, every attack could be parried if you're fast enough, right? If you can parry with one hand. Alright. I was certain I took him by surprise, however my opponent's reflexes proved faster than I anticipated. He ducks my arm at the last possible instant, leaving only the barest sensation of impact to tell me I clipped his helmet. I was so close. Is my mind playing tricks on me? I seem to hear laughter, though no voice should be able to reach me across the steel-torn sky. It's soft and low, a sound not of malice or scorn, but joy.
次を仕留める。
Next pass, you die.
見ろ。
Go.
敵情。
Give me his status.
日の絵から馬の神、距離620。
5 o'clock high, range 620.
反転。
This coming about probably means to...
あれは。見ろ、敵
Need a
だ。
look? It's clear what the enemy's doing. What isn't clear at all is why. I'm staring down the tip of my enemy's bolt, his sword sheathed, and his bow aimed squarely at my forehead. Considering I face an archer, this in itself is no surprise. The problem is the timing. Why now? It's too soon. I've taken no damage. My heat reserves are full. My ability to maneuver is therefore undiminished. The enemy knows this, yet means to fire. I'd understand if he had a rapid-fire weapon like a short bow, but the knight's crossbow is precisely the opposite. It's designed for power, not speed. The heavy string that must be rewound after every shot. In Musha combat, where any given chance could be your last, it's madness to expect more than one opportunity to fire such a weapon. That being the case, the wise strategy is obvious. Hold your shot until it has the best possible chance of landing.
焦った
Did he panic?
とでも言うの
Doesn't
か。
seem the sort to let a single near miss unnerve him so severely. Then what? It's fruitless. It doesn't matter now. Now he could just magnetically reflect any bolts, right? On demand. Given that he can magnetically reflect a tidal wave, I assume he can like magnetically reflect a crossbow bolt just to not hit him or hit him with less damage. Whoever, like, all it has to do is just have them impact and redirect the bolt a little bit forcibly so it can never hit you. Right? Whatever my enemy's intentions, there's only one correct response. I have to do everything in my power to evade the coming shot. The crossbow is his deadliest weapon. Force him to waste it and the battle is won. The time it takes him to ready his sword will be all I need to end it. Thus this night, my father's killer will fall and Captain Otori will live. It's a nice pose though. I do like the way they've lit this scene. I assume this is the 3D model, because the bow looks like the 3D model. But I like the way they've lit the scene. It looks pretty fucking cool. I peel my eyelids back into my skull, determined to seize the fatal moment that my enemy's hatred's unleashed. I sense he's doing the same, watching me, looking for the perfect target. Will it be my throat, my eye, my crown? Will it be my beating heart? I'll have the answer shortly. Muramasa is in her sights. She cannot miss. The moment she pulls this trigger, Minato Kageaki will die. Kageaki will die. And she's kind of just in there, holding off. Yeah, figured she'd struggle. By all accounts, Otori Kanae had a perfectly ordinary birth. She wasn't pulled from the womb of a rotting corpse. No wolves gathered to echo her cries, nor was she conceived beneath a blood moon or as part of some forbidden dark ritual. There was love, there was courtship, there was commingling of fluids, a lucky sperm met a ready egg, and 9 months later a screaming infant emerged. All perfectly normal, all perfectly in line with the billions of human births before her. Alas, this perfectly normal birth did not produce a normal child. A small piece. Each of her heart and her body came into this world different. The first to realize it, even before Kanae herself, was her father. Otori Tokitsugu was a dedicated parent, and despite the many duties that came with his rank, he always made time to attend to Kanae's education himself, and so he couldn't help but bear witness to his daughter's inclinations. One day he witnessed Kanae tear the head off a praying mantis. A butterfly lay dead at her feet, the remains of the mantis's meal. Despite his disquiet, he chose not to raise the issue, reasoning that children are sometimes cruel, and scolding her for it might have the opposite effect. Given time and proper lessons to shape her outlook on life and the world, she would realize her mistake. Otori Tokitsugu was a good father. The next time he saw her in the garden, she was strangling a sparrow. From the insects it had vomited onto the grass, he guessed that the bird had been hunting for its supper. This time, too, Tokitsugu said nothing, and instead he went looking for fables that might serve to illustrate the sanctity of life. He's a very good father. After that, it was a raven, and feeling his stare, Kanae explained that the raven had pillaged a sparrow's nest. Though it was difficult, Tokitsugu ultimately decided to praise her for catching the bird. It could not have been easy, and ravens were vermin. Censure would not have been appropriate. He was, after all, a good father. A few weeks later, he woke once more to the panic screams of his servants, and racing to the garden, he found his daughter covered in blood, in her left hand a kitchen knife, and in her right the corpse of a dog. He killed a kitten, Kanae offered, approaching with an unsteady gait. Apparently, not all the blood belonged to the murdered animal. So deeply shocked, her father first summoned the doctor and bade Kanae wash up as best she could, which she did, only after burying the dog herself. That night, after her wounds had been treated, he finally sat his daughter down to ask, Why do you do these things? Well, because they deserve it, his daughter replied. Why? Because they were bad. It's wrong, she continued, to take a life. Each time she saw it happen, her heart would go out to the victims. Their anger, their grief for the future denied to them, was what drove her to act. She killed the mantis, the sparrow, the raven, the dog, because those they had killed demanded it. Her father tried to explain it was the way of nature that every creature, big and small, sacrificed others to live. Where did she think their meals came from? The fish, pigs, and cows, and chickens had all been killed to feed them. And that's why, his daughter replied without pause, we should be punished too. If nature decreed creatures kill to live, then nature itself is wrong. Justice, the right, transcend nature's law. No excuse, not even necessity, could ever justify murder. If there is justice in this world, alright. Ichijo believed that too. Young Kanae had taken her father's teachings to heart. He taught her that a noble's duty was to lead by example, to show her people justice could not be denied. A noble, first and foremost, is an enemy of evil. And now her father was truly at a loss, for while his daughter was clearly an aberration, she was also not wrong. Realizing that logic therefore would not dissuade her, he tried the only thing he had left, juvenile though it was. He tried appealing to fear. What if the dog had a family, he asked. What if they come for revenge like you did? You might have a whole pack of hounds chasing you down in the night. And if they catch me, they'll rip me to shreds and justice will be done. If there had been any hint at all that her answer concealed fear, then her father might have found relief. She was normal after all, he'd have known, if more than a little uncompromising with regard to the values he'd taught her. But no, she smiled as she spoke those words, and in her smile there was only hope and a rapturous joy. Afterwards, when she'd gone back to her room, her father sat alone with his thoughts long into the night. It was to be the first of many such nights, though in the end his lamentations would prove fruitless. He's a good father, but he sired a monster. In truth, Kanae had by this point already realized what was wrong with her, just as she understood her father's concerns and what she could do to assuage them. She didn't care, she knew what she needed. She wanted this to avenge the slain, not because it was her right, but because it gave her pleasure. Her father taught her that killing was wrong and that taking of lives must be punished. And in so doing, he unwittingly loosed her upon the world, for to her those rules were the perfect excuse to satisfy her urges. The one small mercy in all this was that he never realized what he'd done. He died believing his daughter was merely pure, too pure of heart, and never stopped to consider what other terrible forms that purity might take. He's a good father and a good man, and didn't believe any child could be born a monster. The good man could not see, and the good father could not do what needed to be done. Thus Kanae was given time to grow into her madness until at last, in September of the 24th year of Koryu, it all came to a head. The soldiers who had abducted the Osugi family were members of the Otori faction. Unable to return to their base with the police hot on their trail, the police and the army were at the time bitter rivals, and so the captain took his men and their prisoners deep into the mountains of Aizu, where House Otori held sway. A few days later, word reached House Otori that these radicals were hiding in a remote manor that belonged to the Nagakura family. Immediately, the house leaders met to discuss what should be done. Opinions were divided. The head of the clan, Tokiharu, argued for intercession on these patriots' behalf, while his younger brother, Kanae's father, was adamant these terrorists be turned over to the police. The argument turned into a shouting match. The two men almost came to blows, and finally House Otori agreed to make the whole thing go away. Osugi Sakai and his family would be freed, and then sent to live out the rest of their days in a distant foreign land. The soldiers, meanwhile, would return to their unit, where they'd be censured and punished for abandoning their posts in the chaos following the earthquake. It was an elegant, if not principled, solution. Unfortunately, by the time they reached it, the matter had been decided for them. The day it happened, young Lady Kanae, then a guest at the Nagakura residence, had gone for a walk in the woods, and as she approached the mountain lodge where she spent several winters, found a boy bleeding to death by the roadside. With gasping breaths, the boy told her what transpired, how men abducted his family and brought them here, and how they'd made demands of his father, but the demands had been refused, and how they'd been shouting, there'd been blows, and finally drawn blades. The boy expired before he could finish, but the young lady had heard enough, all she needed to know. When an armed soldier came running from the villa and demanded to know who she was, Kanae laid the boy down gently and then rose, giving the soldier his answer. At last, the time had come to satisfy the deepest craving of her soul. When Nagakura Sayo arrived on the scene in pursuit of her missing charge, she found only a pile of corpses and one smiling monster. Sayo and her brother tried their best to dispose of the evidence. The story they spun that the extremist had murdered the Osugi family and then taken their own lives was believable given the climate of the time. But a murdered corpse looks very different from one that died by suicide, and no doctor would mistake a battle wound for a child's clumsy scrape. While society at large accepted the lie, the truth was whispered between servants in dark corners until it became a secret that all of House Otori shared. From then on, wherever Kanae walked, terror walked beside her. Beware, child. Beware. Beware the child. Do not speak to her. Do not touch her. Do not catch her cursed eye. And don't, if you love your soul, make the child mad. Even her father, who tried so hard, was forced to accept he'd failed. He'd never understand her and couldn't afford to love her. A few years later, she left to study in Habsburg. It was exile, Sayo her sole companion. Kanae didn't blame her father for sending her away. Indeed, she felt nothing but gratitude for the love he'd always tried to show her, and regret she was born unable to give that love its due. She was a monster, but she wasn't delusional. She knew she was the anomaly. Someone like her who took joy in the suffering of others deserved only loathing and scorn. And so her father taught her, and so therefore she believed. For the next several years, Kanae roamed the cities and towns of Europe. She never stayed in one place for long. Death walked with her, and in her footsteps rumors spread like ripples on a pond. Valor, they whispered. The fury, the Night Stalker. In all her time on the continent, she never once doubted her way, and a decade later she returned to Yamato, the same monster she'd always been. But it was there in the land of her birth and first kill she was finally forced to question. This is the moment that it all went wrong, that something cracked inside her soul. She's meant to be hated. Her victims always answered her thus. They always wailed or wept or spat at her feet or threw themselves at her in vain rage. She'd killed them all regardless. But she'd never killed a man who thanked her for it. This man had murdered Yuhi, her cousin. She had the proof as well as proof of his many other crimes, but she also knew he committed those murders out of need, and that within the confines of his fate there had been no other choice. I mean, she managed to get a Tsurugi that doesn't make you kill random people, so I feel like you could say he should get one. There's even some in Japan, like the one Ichijo got. Therefore, when she announced her intention to kill him for crimes he'd been forced to commit, she did so expecting he'd fight. It was, after all, the correct response when sentenced so unfairly. Instead, he accepted it. Though she could smell his terror, he welcomed it with tears in his eyes, and it made no sense. He's not like her, a creature who worships vengeance. He's a good man, a principled man, and such a man did not take rank injustice lying down. Why then did he? Looking back, it's foolish to let him shake her so, when all she had to do was kill him and be done. Monsters aren't meant to understand the hearts of humans, and it's worse than useless to try. But try she did. She prodded. She picked at the enigma he presented like a wanderer lost in an ancient labyrinth. The problem that haunted her so was this. It's not an escape he wanted. If it were, he'd have taken his own life. What he wanted was an execution. He wanted punishment in the names of those he'd slain, and somehow this desire coexisted with his natural fear of death. It seemed impossible. Night after night she asked herself how it could be, and then she got her answer.
お命を無価値に扱われてはなりません。今後はどうか
Life is worth
ご自重を願います。
無価値。
はい。
Yes.
私の振る舞いは価値のないこと。
Was what I did without work?
ありません。
Yes. It was in that moment she realized the truth. The fear of death and need to die. She thought these two were equal in his mind. He was wrong. One was not a factor. Minato Kageaki did not value his own life. This man who bled to defend the natural right of people to live did not believe he himself possessed the same right, or any right to be heard, to be seen, or be treated as human. This is why he sank to his knees when she promised to make him suffer, even though his every instinct screamed at him to flee. Minato Kageaki hated himself with a passion that defied imagining. Is it the sacrifices Muramasa's curse demanded? Or is it something deeper? Some sin from his distant past that caused him to set himself apart as unworthy? Whatever it was, it meant he'd never take up arms in his own defense, and when the time came, he'd kneel once again, baring his neck to her vengeful stroke. I mean, that's no fun. It's not right, said her heart at last. Kanae had always preyed solely on killers in accordance with her law, and not once had she entertained the notion she was acting in the name of good. Her victims, too, had their reasons, and theirs were no less valid than her own. That's why she never shot them in the back. She always gave them the chance to fight, to challenge her verdict with trial by combat. For only when tested in a court of equals could vengeance become law. This time was no different. Minato Kageaki had his reasons. He always tried his best. She knew because she'd seen it. Though their time together had been short, he'd spent it struggling to save as many lives as he could, and yet when she read out the charges against him, he waived his right to a defense. Not once. Not even he himself would speak on his behalf. If she killed him now, facing no opposition, the life he had lived, the pain he had suffered, all the good he'd tried to do would remain forever unredeemed. Was it anger that gripped her heart at the thought? He doesn't deserve to die like this. Frustration? Not like this. Helplessness, perhaps? Not like this. Sorrow? One thing was for certain. Then don't kill him. The death of her way. Why kill him? For vengeance? What's vengeance? An absolute law? No. Just one law of many. No better or worse than any other. Why cling to it now? Why cling to it ever? Because it gave you pleasure? Because it's what you wanted? But now, Otori Kanae, you don't want to kill. She tried to reject it. How could she not kill him? This one wasn't like any other. This one was like any other. It was not like any other, yeah? This time it's personal. He took from her Nita Yuhi, that precious boy. She so wanted him to be happy. Excuse me.
はい。
Yes?
少しお伺いしたいことが。すいません。俺この辺に住んでる学生で、
I'd
新
like
田
to
裕二っ
ask
て言い
you
ます。
about... Oh, sorry. Nita Yuhi? I live around here. How about like the 4 people who died in the demon frame? That were all trying to avenge their lost ones. I guess they weren't strong enough. Or she isn't aware of them.
はい。
Hello.
ゆうひさん。
Minato Kageaki stole his future. Hate. What else could she feel for this crime? His reasons don't matter. His pain didn't matter. She had to settle the score. But what did that mean? Would killing him bring Yuhi back? The first time in Kanae's life, she knew what it was to doubt. It was hell, and once it started, nothing could make it stop. What did she want? Vengeance? Really? Perhaps it isn't hate that drives you. Perhaps you simply love too much. She remembered what her father said the day he sent her into exile. Those were the last words they'd share. Kanae always believed her father didn't understand her, but what if she'd been wrong? What if in some ways he peered deeper into her soul than she ever could? Could it be? Could it be she wasn't a monster, but just hopelessly late? Perhaps it had merely taken her this long to realize the truth, that revenge, for all it gripped the soul, was an empty, fruitless endeavor. The Orestia. After avenging his father, Orestes is hunted by the Furies to madness. The Count of Monte Cristo, all that vengeance gains the hero is a lifetime of guilt for his crimes. I don't recall that part, but okay. I mean, I guess it all amounts to nothing, but I don't know if he thinks it wasn't worth it. That's the fun of the Count. Oh, well. Hamlet, the vengeful prince, destroys not only his enemy, but himself and everyone he knows. Yeah, that is a mess. Many authors, famed for their insight, warned of the folly of vengeance. Of course, that's only if you are concerned about your own potential ruin. Who was she to refute their wisdom? What if they were right? Vengeance was greater than that. It had meaning, value! Or did it? She had to know. Is it right to kill Minato Kageaki? I don't want to. Is it right to avenge Nita Yuhi? I want to. What course should she choose? What was right for her? What truly was her way? To find the answer, she had to know what vengeance was. There was one other person against whom Kanae had personal cause for vengeance. Otori Shishiku, the man who killed her father. Before the attack on House Otori, Kanae argued that Shishiku's plans presented a threat to Yamato. If it's true, but also the excuse she was looking for. Her father taught her that the nation must come first, and regardless of what she might require. He couldn't kill Shishiku as long as doing so might precipitate Yamato's downfall, so she waited until matters convened to give her justification. She believed by avenging her father she would find the answer she sought. She was right. In the moment she got her answer, whole, perfect, and complete, she learned the truth of vengeance. I can't kill him. It's not right. He's a hopeless, desperate fool. It'd be too easy for him to find peace. All he has to do is accept it wasn't his fault. He's unlucky, a victim of fate, forced by matters beyond his control to wash his hands in blood. And he thinks he should die. You know, he's getting awfully close. If he's that close, it should be about like 1 second before he gets hit. This reminds me a little bit of the fight between Shiro and Archer. Emi Archer, that is. Where Shiro's swinging at him, and he's like debating whether or not to block for like 5 minutes in his own head. Like, he can easily block it at any time, but he's just not convinced he can't convince himself he should actually parry the attack. It's reminding me a bit of that scene, where he's getting far too close. And you're like, is she just gonna let him shoot? I mean, we know she's really struggling to decide to kill him, right? That's been her problem. That's been the problem she's been experiencing since she said she'd kill him. And he reacted with gratitude. If anything, it's kind of strange that she's so bothered by it, because it seems like it would be in keeping with her law. It's like, oh, someone else who agrees with me. It's like, oh yes, I am a horrible person, please kill me now. But she finds it disturbing? Oh well. Maybe she's just not used to it. It's so alien that she's like, why would someone ever do that? The gall, it makes her want to howl in frustration, to rip the hair from her head by the roots. He knows even now if she revealed herself, he'd surrender without pause. He'd purge his armor, bare his throat, and all the while a voice inside would be screaming at him to fight. Why won't he listen? She killed his father, but even That if he knew it was her, he'd surely blame himself. It's madness when all he has to do is shout, "I tried my best." And so what if nobody cares? He did try. He fought his best fight. At the least he should acknowledge the tears and blood he shed. And yet he insists he deserves no recognition, only death.
殺してなんてやらない
Won't get off that easy. He's just like, I love Minato Kageaki so much I can't kill him. Yeah, we get it. Kill him now, he'll be right. He'll die worthless, a wretched thing. I can't tell if she's just coping because she's in love with this guy or not. That's my assumption, and it seems like she's still in denial? But it's giving us the word view clause, which is like, okay, well, he's someone who wants to die, so she can't kill him, and she's like, that's so weird, I can't have it happen. You're like, okay. You know, that's not the end he deserves. A man like him should be made to live, to drown in joy beyond his wildest dreams. And when he's old and happy, all his pain forgotten, she'll lean in close and into his ear and whisper, "Remember, darling, how you wanted to die?" Oh, to see the look on his face, what a future that would be.
殺せない
Can't kill him. She wants him to live. At last, the blood-gorged monster found a human heart. Here it comes.
かわした。
We made it. Shifting course at precisely the moment he fires, I remove myself from the crossbow bolt's path. He's mine. But then across the shattered sound barrier, I hear a terrible verse. The paradox of Tal and the apple. Long ago, a philosopher named Zeno devised a legendary paradox. While he used the story of Achilles and the tortoise to illustrate his argument, here it's slightly more modern example has the apple. Apply best to the setting. William Tell fires an arrow at the apple on his son's head. Before it gets there, however, it must pass through point A, located somewhere between Tell and his target. Of course, before it can reach point A, it has to hit point B, C, and D, and so on. The arrow, therefore, will never reach its target, for in order to do so, it must pass through an infinite number of points. This paradox is refuted by observable reality, but it's precisely what makes it so compelling, for if there were someone who could observe the infinite points, each in the unimaginable nothingness of time, the arrow passes through it, then for that person the paradox would be reality, and reality the fiction. Such a person doesn't exist, though. Such a person can't exist. The arrow just turned? Well, did she hit? Even before confirming that her bolt struck home, Kanae draws her sword and dives to deliver the finishing blow. She doesn't need confirmation. For her to miss is impossible. No, but it said the last guy missed. Did the last guy just not have the heart to fire? This is William Burroughs' Shinogi, the power to make Zeno's paradox real. It begins when the arrow is fired. The arrow travels in a straight line towards the target, and as with any normal arrow, a sufficiently quick and perceptive enemy might remove himself from the path. And that's where the similarities end, for Burroughs' Shinogi allows the pilot to reset the arrow's flight path at any point she chooses. The arrow shifts to its new course instantly in blanket defiance of the laws of physics, and it may do so again as many times as necessary until it reaches its mark. Thus, William Burroughs' arrow is impossible to evade, in theory. And yet for centuries the theory remained unproven. For in order to use Burroughs' power effectively, one must be able to observe the arrow as it passes through each point in flight, to know without a nanosecond lost where it is at any given moment, and more, to know where the target is at this same precise moment. The conditions are far in excess of even the most talented human's ability, even when supported by Tsurugi's considerable computative faculties. This is William Burroughs' great failure. While William Tell had empowered his arrows to follow his pilot's eye, Burroughs, knowing he could never duplicate this feat, instead tried to produce something close enough. What he got was a technique impossible to execute, a fantasy in a fantasy that could never match the history that Tell made. Or could it? If ever a person who was born whose senses transcended the human, who possessed vision of such acuity that for her time itself seemed to stand still, then with her as his pilot, Burroughs would likely surpass Tell at last. I like the way they did her eyes. This power has a cost. The strain's enormous, and not only on the pilot's heat reserves. Kanae's tortured brain howls in protest, red rivers of blood streaming down her cheeks. She should barely be able to move so soon after losing an arrow, but something has taken hold of her limbs, some force which drives her onward. She doesn't have the strength to aim a clean thrust, so she lifts her sword and swings it like a club. Her arms are numb. She can't feel how well her sword connected. She might have struck with the flat of her blade, and she wouldn't even know. Doesn't matter, though. If it'll harm her prey, anything will do. Two hits. This is vengeance. 2 hits, and he's not dead. And the arrow didn't kill. This is vengeance. And now she knows what vengeance is.
貴様の父親は寝床を襲って殺してやった。
Killed your father in his bed, you know. He died like a worm, blind and helpless.
貴様もそこで。
It came to her as a revelation the moment she killed her once betrothed in her father's place. Wise men say vengeance breeds nothing. They're correct, but what of it? The future is for the living, and the victims of murder are dead. Remember them? Will any mortal law silence their eternal screams? No, if you wish to do right by the dead, your choice is abundantly clear. Restore them to life or punish their killer. Which of these is possible? So be it. Okay. Let the score be settled, the balance paid. What the dead have lost, they can never regain. They'll take it from the killer, that their losses might be equal. This is what the dead demand, the law of vengeance. And those who know it's this law, and that the dead go unavenged, there's only one righteous path, to become their mortal vessel and pursue their foe to the ends of the earth. The needs of the living aren't important, they have no bearing on what's right. Honor, pride, and honor Otori Kanae will see justice done, and she is its tool, and a purpose. A tool needs only its purpose. Joy, pleasure, frustration, pity. Her feelings are always worthless. The only difference now is that they're in the way. I mean, she could just... If Otori Kanae cannot kill Minato Kageaki, she too must die. Alright. I hear laughter, bright and deranged, the sound of a twisted, gleeful thing broken beyond repair. Was this how he laughed when he killed my father? This ecstasy? This hate? Mito, 5 o'clock high. I summon my will and attempt to prepare for my enemy's attack. My body is unresponsive, not heavy. If anything, it's too light, as if everything below my chest were suddenly gone. Perhaps it is. That hellish bolt pierced my stomach and flew on without stopping. It certainly felt like it could have taken most of me with it. Perhaps that's why everything feels so... The world dims and rises out of the fog. That blow just now struck my helmet. It's only luck my skull's intact. Or is it? Perhaps it's not luck. My enemy's last few attacks have been lacking. The low mass of his armor isn't enough to explain it. His swings are crude, no better than an amateur's. Is he toying with me? No. I know the answer. This knight has no concept of play. The malice I felt in that moment was pure. The creature possesses only 2 things, the desire to take my life and the joy in seeing it done. Once he marks you for death, nothing will stay him from the course. For an instant, reality snaps out of joint, and instead of my enemy's helmeted visage, I see a different face. But it's impossible. It's... Muramasa? Don't get distracted. I wasn't... The last blow must have scrambled my brain. I feel as if I've been ripped from a dream, the memory swiftly fading. Was it a memory I needed? It seemed important. I reached for it. That's a distraction, Mito. Forget it and focus on the fight. He's coming. His blade smashes against my gauntlet, numbing my arm to the bone. If I'd guarded my throat an instant slower, I'd now be dead. Muramasa is right. If I let myself get distracted, it won't happen again. Still, it's strange. With a little more strength, that attack could have breached my armor. There's only one explanation why it didn't. He's weaker? Looks that way. The Shinogi must have taken a lot out of him. It makes sense. A Shinogi like that, which can empower an arrow to change its course against inertia, must come with a commensurate price. Even if he could have reloaded his bow in this time, I doubt he could have managed a second shot. Don't you have an attack that goes at the speed of light? What? You have a... Turning an arrow? Costs like... Turning an arrow versus moving at the speed of light? What? Like, there's difficult that costs energy, and then there's actually impossible. Alright, okay. Or generating a particle weapon with a sword draw? That can, like, level a mountain? How is that even remotely comparable to redirecting an arrow? Jesus Christ. I know that it's not actually the Shinogi that she's using, right? She's using her perception, which hurts. I assume that's the perception that hurts, but it's still like, what? What? That doesn't make sense. The energy consumption's way different. Alright. Generating something from nothing? Doing that with that much force? He basically makes and fires that the blade. The crossbow. Sure, he doesn't redirect it, but that's so much force. Holy shit. It's even better too, because all that did was pierce his armor, right? A single shot. Even if he could have reloaded his bow in time, I doubt he could have managed a second shot. Yeah, that's probably true. This will be our last chance to fight back. We won't have a prayer if he recovers his strength.
どころかあのしのぎがもう一度来るかも。
Especially if he uses that Shinogi again. The taste of iron's thick on my tongue. I swallow it, bidding my torn, shattered flesh to answer my commands. The enemy is again on approach. Light or no, I can't take many more of his attacks. I've ready my sword and prepare to counter. He charges on, unheeding, as though the battle were already won. I'll show him how wrong he is. At the last moment, I shift my stance from Joden to Haso. It's my turn to thrust. The enemy makes no move to defend. Even if he tried, the initiative is mine. I aim for his center of mass, foregoing juicier targets. This is no time to be greedy. Right now, I just need to land a hit. Fortunately, his head-on approach makes it easy. And yet, when my hungry blade pierces the sky, my enemy's not there. He knew? No. He saw. And not just this one meager thrust. From the very beginning, the knight's seen everything to the motion of my smallest hair. This is his domain. Too late, I realize what I am, a prisoner, an insect pinned to a slide. And there's no escape. Not from these eyes. So are we actually getting knocked out of the sky? We've been hit like 20 times. We have like a billion fucking points of plot armor keeping us in the air. Usually it's one solid hit, a couple solid hits that ends the bad guy. And we take like 100. Well, again, at least there's an excuse for this time. Otori is like horrendously crippled. I like that they gave us a good reason for her not to just insta-kill him. I guess she failed to land the arrow where you would have wanted it, right? An instant kill would have been nice with the arrow like she did with the other guy, but maybe she just wants more stuff. It's not like she wants suffering? Maybe she missed? I don't know. We'll see. It seems like she's uncertain she wants him dead, otherwise he'd just have died in one shot and she would have moved on, right? She's still uncertain. Even with her claim that she does, it seems like she's using her way to hide her uncertainty. Again, the world falls away, and I claw myself back, only to slip once more. My man's barely even conscious. Damn. I sense Muramasa is calling to me, but her voice is distant and I can't hear. My vision dims. Precious seconds pass before awareness returns. His hunger unsated, the enemy is swiftly closing to strike, and yet I feel that terrible pull, my body pleading to let it rest. It's been through more than enough. I can't. Give in now and I'll never wake. I can't rest yet. Not yet, I have to fight. But why? Why? There must be a reason. What was it? Has it slipped through the cracks in my skull? I have to know. Without a reason, I can't keep up the fight. Remember, why am I fighting? I assume it's to kill my enemy? To kill my enemy, the classic choice. Let's go. Yes. Yes, to kill this enemy. Hate him with all your might. He killed your father. Cling to that hate. It'll give you the strength to do what you must. It's all you need. All you are. You're a killer and nothing more. There's only one way for a killer to save the life of Otori Kanae. Okay, let's see if she can perceive this attack. Something happened outside. Something outside Kanae's experience is happening, but though she's never witnessed it before, she knows this attack will destroy her. Yoshi Onryu Kasenreiho, adapted from Shinrai. The words of a mantra rise from my throat, the keys that unlock my deadliest curse. Here at last I've returned to my path, not the path of the righteous that I left long ago, and its laws would not serve me here. I'm a killer, and to kill is my way, and that's what I will do. Kill and fear not the law of balance, though next my sword will surely demand the head of my savior, my goddess. I have faith in the power of her vengeance. She's the truest lord I've known, the fairest judge, the most merciless executioner. I know her malice will prevail against me. And so with that faith in my heart, I'll strike and claim my vengeance. Railgun. My god. That's the way. There we go, boys. Fire it off. Muramasa? Give me his status.
まだ
How?
落
He's
ちて
still
ない
flying?
飛んでる光線能力残存の
Still
様子
operational? Those eyes. Is even the lightning too slow to shake their grasp? By a hair's breadth, my enemy escaped a fatal blow?
けれど被害は甚
Sadly,
大
hope Mito, if we leave
あの
him,
まま
落ちる
he'll crash? No.
かそんな相手ではない
Not him. Mito?
あの敵機は俺を殺すまで
He won't allow himself to
時
fall
期
so
の
long as
敗
his
北など
target
認めな
lives.
い
And even if he
た
falls,
とえ墜落がもはや不可避であろうと最後の
he
瞬
won't
間
give
ま
up.
で
With his last breath, he'll come for me.
だから
You know what we have to do? Kill someone else? It's not like the law of balance will actually penalize him if he falls. Mito?
おっ
I mean, if we hit him with an attack and he falls from the sky, that's his own problem, right? The Avatar of Vengeance, heartless vessel of the dead, cackles with unrestrained joy. A strike now, just nearly split her in two. The slightest touch and her body will crumble. But now the maiden and the monster knows he returns her feelings. His hatred in hers, his bloodlust in hers. They're bound by the purest of threads, and here in the sky there's only revenge. Such beauty, such freedom, the world is complete. A perfect circle, empty for but them. Them and the law of vengeance. The nice thing about this is you can always comfortably root against the protagonist at the end of the story, which is fun. I don't feel like Otori Kanae is the protagonist at this point. Ichijo transitioned to a protagonist, or transitioned to the protagonist role, but Otori hasn't really done so. She's just like a person you can be like, yeah, okay, go for it. My cracked wings screech in protest as I force them to carry me onwards. The enemy is there, also struggling to fly. Will I reach him before he's prepared? The question means nothing no matter what comes, my purpose is the same. Oh, the armor-piercing bolts deal less damage, but we still don't know how well she was trying to aim. She thinks she's aiming well, is she? To kill?
レールガンは可能か
Can we manage another railgun?
もう無理よ熱量が足りない
Crazy? You don't have the heat.
ならばアクセルは
What about boosting our speed?
短時間
Maybe
だ
a few seconds, but if we
け
do
れど
that,
よし
good. I interrupt Muramasa's warning. I've heard what I need to know. All that's left is to finish this. It doesn't take long for Kanae to realize she has no strength to spare. How can she meet her enemy's charge when she can barely stay aloft? Perhaps this is it, the end, defeat. Perhaps that's not to be feared. He'll die and Kageaki will live.
それでもいい
Oh, there's nothing wrong with that. So be it, this is her final choice. What is her course at the end? Well, we have a decision to make, guys. One of these is kill. I'm not sure which one. This is a tough choice, guys. We got 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright, my favorite number today is 4. She shuts down her engines, folds up her wings, and surrenders herself to the pull of the earth. 100 million Otori Kanaes would surely have done the same. For now, she has the power she needs.
The paradox of Teranapol.
Paradox of Talon Apple. She makes ready to kill. What else? But to kill. That's her purpose, to avenge the wrathful slain. What little heat remains in her blood belongs to them, not her, and so she'll use it, not to live, but to kill. When I see my enemy abandon flight, my blood goes cold. He's coming for me. With the last of his strength, he'll squall me from the sky, his own death assured, whether he succeeds or fails. It's madness. I'd expect no less.
リニアアクセル
Linear Excel.
グラビティアクセル
Gravity Excel. Okay. Without a moment's pause, I engage my own shinogi, summoning the elemental forces of nature to grant me impossible speed. The air falls away, sound shatters to silence, and not even the fastest racing cruxes could hope to catch me now. Nothing of this world could. And yet...
振り切れて
How?
いない
Are his eyes not of this world? I feel them tracking me, hooks buried in my flesh. I was right. Escape is impossible. If I'd run, he would have shot me down no matter the angle or distance. But flee or fight, it's all the same. He has me in his sights and his arrow can't miss. I know what I saw. The arrow changed course, always on target no matter where I flew. I don't know how the arrow is guided. I suspect the pilot has control, but that's just speculation. The only thing I know is that there's no way to evade. My only hope is to shake the pilot's aim, but if reaching even this speed isn't enough, that hope too I must abandon. What else? Is there another way to avoid the arrow or escape his sight? Perhaps, but I'll never find it. I know too little about my enemy's power to understand it completely from that single encounter would take more insight than I possess. So be it, the enemy gets his shot, and that shot will find its mark. What I need to determine now is how to kill him anyway. It's coming. My time is woefully short. A single breath or less. With the precious instants remaining, I must answer the ultimate challenge. Yabarai, the art of deflecting an arrow in flight, is the stuff of legends, achievable only by the greatest masters, at least when talking about unarmored swordsmen. Musha aren't as limited, never mind arrows with training, and even an average Musha can deflect the bullets from a gun. This changes, however, when the archer is also a Musha. The velocity of a Musha's arrow far outstrips the most powerful rifles. Even with Tsurugi enhancements, to cut one down in flight is nearly impossible. That's what I must do in order to reach this enemy. Fail and defeat is certain. I can't survive another arrow, I may not survive the first. Yabarai it is. What tools do I possess that allow me to accomplish this miracle? Speed? Reflexes? Visual acuity? Nah. My physical abilities are merely average, and average will not suffice. Technique, then, is my sole recourse, the Oshinu Onryu. This, however, does not teach a form of the Yabarai that applies here. That being the case, I have one choice: develop a new technique now. It is, of course, an absurd proposition, and I'll almost certainly fail. However, without seizing that slimmest of threads, I'll never slay this Sagittarius. Cold bite of malice against my skin informs me of death's approach, and in less than a second my enemy will fire. Leaves me with no time to consider the problem from every angle. So many eyes, so little time. I can't formulate a plan until I know what approach to take, and I can't know what approach to take until I consider the options, but time is more precious than air. I can't waste it on deliberation. Instead, I must decide. A wealth of experience dwells in my memory. One of these battles must contain a clue to the answer I need, and that's not the only choice I must make. To unlock the clue, I'll need a key, and I must also decide where this battle, the key to victory lies. The key and the clue from my past. Assemble these, and the Yabarai will lie within my grasp. So choose, Minato Kageaki, which opponent gave you the clue? Which opponent gave me the clue? Probably the latest one. Otori Shishku. What's the key to victory? The enemy's eyesight, obviously, right? Literally like the same dealio, right? I fly towards my target, my course straight and set, the tip of my sword leading the way. Here at the end, I become myself an arrow, a missile armed with a cruel gleaming point. The point aimed at my enemy's eye has the power to seize control of his senses, disrupt his focus, as General Otori showed me. I know this is not the field for which this technique was intended. Here in the sky, where ranges are great and speeds greater, the only time you can truly observe your enemy is in the moment before he strikes. It's not enough time for the spell to take hold, not enough for an ordinary Musha. What if your opponent isn't ordinary? What if they possess a terrifying power, eyes that can observe me in perfect detail, even as I approach the impossible speed across the vastness of the sky? Feel the knight's gasp. At this very moment, my sword is the only thing he sees. The spell won't last for more than an instant, but for that, it's an eternity. By the time he breaks free, I'll be upon him. He's got to fire now. It's his last chance, but how? He's lost his target. Indeed, if my sword is all he sees, that must be his target. And as a target it will serve, the sword is an extension of my body. To avoid the arrow, I'll have to change course or attempt to strike it from the sky. Given that the latter is impossible, all my enemy has to do is wait until I maneuver to evade. That will break my sword's hold on its senses, allowing him to use his shinogi in full. and that will surely be my end. So my enemy's response is perfectly correct for the present situation. His mistake was letting me create this situation in the first place. He should have fired the instant he cut his engines before I had the time to prepare or reply. It would not have mattered where his arrow aimed, for he has the power to correct its course in flight. Instead, he wasted precious time bringing his weapon to bear. I don't know why. An archer's pride? If so, his pride will kill him. The arrow streaks towards me. I don't evade. I don't attempt to strike it down. I do nothing, for my faith is strong. I believe in this knight, in his eyes and in his bow. No matter how small his target, he won't miss. Therefore, I need only fly straight, and this bolt will find the tip of my sword. The blade bends, then cracks and shatters, taking all of my right arm with it, but my heart still beats. An ember of life remains, and it's enough. The ember flares. I fly onwards toward my foe. With my remaining hand, I drew my short sword. My enemy, too, drew his blade. Does my sword pierce his heart? Does his pierce mine? At the end, I feel nothing. Guess we'll wait for the epilogue scene. Alright. They ended that the same way, by the way, as the previous one. Alright, we got some credits. So how was that arc? Interesting, I guess. Feels like Otori Kanae is less committed to the fight than Ichijo was. Honestly, pretty depressing? That seems alright. I mean, I thought the story was enjoyable. It was a little bit depressing, yeah. It was a little bit depressing, but it's not, like, more depressing than I was expecting. I was expecting depressing, little edgy, probably not a good ending. Like, for like, whoever the protagonist is, they're not getting a good ending, and I'm kind of getting that, so... It's not more than I expected, but it seems alright. I don't think I had too much of a dislike for anything that happened in this one, actually. I had, like, a bit more of a struggle with the last one, with the last arc. This arc, I was like, okay. Okay. Otori's struggling a bit because she can't decide whether she loves this guy or hates him. Like, okay. You know, she's got her vengeance, but she's not certain she wants to deliver it. Like, I can get behind that. You have a purpose, you have a cause, it's somewhat pure, and then you, like, realize that it's not perfect. Or you realize a conflict due to your own emotions that conflicts with, like, your belief. And then you gotta figure out whether or not, like, you should go with your emotions or whatever you believe in. It's really hard, man. And I can sympathize with that. I mean, Kageaki doesn't seem to be, like, 100% aware of this, like, exactly what's going on in the scene, but that's by Otori's design. Most of it went about as expected. I wasn't quite expecting them to nuke the castle. That was a twist I wasn't expecting. Suddenly nukes. But hey, it's still good. It's still an interesting twist. I feel like the worst part of this arc, weirdly enough, was actually the prison arc where they spent like a ton of time in prison. It felt like it didn't have enough direction there. Like it just didn't know where it wanted to go. And comparing to the previous arc, the Ichijo arc, it kind of like immediately knew what we were doing. It's like, we're going to infiltrate the castle. We're fucking going to infiltrate a castle. Let's go. Infiltrate a castle. Oh, make some noise. Oh, we fucked up Doshin. Like, we move on from there. Makes sense. I get that one, right? Like, that one felt like it had direction. This one didn't feel like it quite had direction for a little bit. It was a little bit awkward hanging out at the prison for so long. It was like, the story's not really moving anywhere. It's waiting for things to happen. And well, that's fine, it's understandable, because, like, that's probably what happened. And they did fast forward a bunch, so we weren't waiting too long, and it was still kind of interesting to read. I felt like that was probably the weakest part of the arc, was, like, the start of the actual arc story. We just did nothing. Even though the trip to the, blimp was, like, very sudden, it was kind of nice to have a direction, which we didn't feel like we really had until we randomly had to go do that, right? It felt like we were just sitting there waiting for something interesting to happen. Like, literally in prison waiting for something interesting to happen. Then it's like, oh, go do something. And I know that's what the protagonist is doing while he's having Muramasa search for Ginseigo, right? Like, usually the protagonist, at least that seems like prior to the story, basically spent all his time in prison while Muramasa is looking for something. Then when Muramasa finds something, he gets out and gets hunting down eggs or whatever, right? So I understand that that's what happens, but like doesn't feel like that in the story because it kind of fast forwards that, and this time it didn't fast forward it as much because there was some character development they wanted doing, but it felt like the story was a little bit less direction, had less of a direction until that point where we started pushing ourselves forward. You know, Kanae has this goal, and now she's gonna go realize it by killing this guy, and you're like, oh, hey, that's convenient. It might be where Ginseigo is. Let's go. And then it felt like we had direction for the rest of the story. Wasn't the worst experience though. I was fairly confident that, like, you know, the arc's gonna go somewhere at some point. You just gotta wait until it does, right? But I felt like that was the weakest part of that arc. The ending seems pretty solid. Let's see what the post-credit scene has for us. As I'm kind of expecting one after the last series, huh? Honestly, if it doesn't have a post-credit scene, I'm perfectly fine with that. I actually think the post-credit scene isn't necessary for... If there's a post-credit scene here, I'm going to say it's not necessary. Same with the Ichijo one. We didn't need to know. It was a nice ending to just be like, and they meet, and we'll see. You know, someone wins, someone loses, who knows? Anyway, presented by Nitro Plus. I'm guessing it's going to stay here until I click, so, click. There we go, it starts fading. Okay. We've definitely reached the ending. Is there a post-credit scene? Yes. They're probably going to be consistent. That's fair. So does anyone survive? Oh, that's the question. Do they both die? Snow is falling as I walk the forest path. My pace is slow and I shouldn't feel so heavy when so much of me is gone. I can't let it stop me. I have to keep moving. Mido. Muramasa. Sorry, this is as far as I go. Alright. My partner who fought beside me to the end must leave my side at last. My failing strength won't permit me to turn and bid a proper farewell. Instead, I gather what breath I can spare and speak what must be spoken. Thanks. I walk on, now truly alone, every step harder than the last. My feet are leaden, my sight dimming the air is frozen against my skin, and I'm clinging to life by a thread. The struggle, the fight to keep my heart beating is why I'm suffering so. It'd be so much easier to give up and die, but I can't, not yet. Not until I find her. Next thing I know, I'm lying in the dirt. My legs must have given out. I can't make them move. Here. I try again. I have to stand. I don't want to die, not here. Is this how they felt? I think of all the people I've killed. Surely at the end they all felt the same. Not here, not now, not like this. They had but one wish and I trampled on it. Yes. That's why I must go on. Plant my remaining arm and rise, summoning new strength from nowhere to bear me to my feet. Just a little farther, a little longer, and soon I'll reach her side. Otori Kanae, my executioner, my nemesis. She'll give me the fate I deserve. She witnessed my crimes, she judged me guilty, and she sentenced me with a righteous fury. Hers is the blade of justice for all those I've slain. There is justice, I want to believe. And to prove it, I must die by your hand. She's there, as I knew she would be. Captain, please grant me justice. I don't know if I managed to speak, if she hears my last request, but I feel no fear. She's vengeance incarnate, she'll do what must be done. Perhaps my faith in her is strange, I know so little of the workings of her heart. From time to time, she's shown me glimpses of a darkness beneath her skin. Perhaps she's only a monster pretending to be human, but it changes nothing. How could it? On that day, she made a promise, merciless and true, and she swore to impose upon me a price from which there's no escape. It's all that matters. Even if the rest of the world sees in her a monster, to me, she's an angel, a light from the highest heaven. And so, let me say, Otori Kanae, thank you with all my heart. Something warm touches my throat. This is it. The death I wished for is here. The ending I deserve. Then what? At the end, the last speck of my soul feels a flicker of disappointment. It should hurt. I should be afraid. Instead, the touch of her blade is so gentle. It was supposed to be my punishment, a death fit for a man like me. If I could have but one more wish, it would only be to suffer. She gazes on the man who's departed. His expression is content, but for a slightly furrowed brow. It's not an expression he would have worn in life. It makes him look so young. She chuckles softly. She no longer has the strength to speak.
バカな人。
You silly man. At the very end, he never spared a thought for himself. To protect the woman who promised to kill him, he fought the same woman and died by her hand. A fool.
けれど、
And what does that make me? She's the one who made it happen, who by hiding the truth wrote her own end as well. Is she any less a fool than he? They don't look injured, but okay. So be it then, we're both fools. This story is a simple one. Once upon a time there were two hopeless fools. They fought, died, and the world went on. The end. She doesn't fear the encroaching darkness, it's merely a return to the place that she began. Is oblivion behind you, or is it ahead? The answer, of course, is both. Therefore, desiring life is no different from desiring death. Only the words are different, and Kanae has no interest in trifles. To her, what matters is that she was true, that she lived and died as Otori Kanae was meant to live and die. By those standards, she could have asked for no better ending, and something tells her that for his part, he'd have felt the same. They lived true, they died true. What more can anyone ask for?
ね。
Right, darling? Silently as she speaks to him, knowing he won't answer. We're both such fools that it killed us. But we didn't have a choice, did we? To die together, each other's nemesis, was the only path we could walk. What a farce our lives were, what a priceless comedy. And yet now we're all alone with no one to watch us exit the
だから
stage.
ね。
But I have you. And you have me. So let's laugh together, my darling. This story, this folly was ours. Alright. Alright, probably the best ending of any possible survivorship thing. We had either one survives, both somehow survive, it's not happening. Or the other survives, or both die. And I was thinking, both die would probably be the best call. But like one surviving would be interesting too, I suppose. Came out with that one. Good stuff. If they didn't show that post-credit scene, I probably would have headcanoned they both die, as I don't think Otori would have gotten a clean kill. If I had to pick one to survive, it would have been one who was likely to survive. It would have been Kageaki. Kageaki, since he's like seems more convicted, or not convicted. His conviction and his determination to win seem a little bit higher. So I would have suspected if one survived, it would have been him. All right, that was the end of the Otori route. It was pretty good. I think we got another route to cover at some point, but that's not going to be tonight.